background. So based.
Fuck, this is like
So real, like AZ says, so real.
Well, I didn't have a background in regards to what we were going on about.
You don't have
that was a good live.
convoy background. You don't have a convoy. I know. I love the fact the animal does a hard stop because it like leaves 100 people just sitting on the edge of their chair. And I like the structure of that.
It's all right though. Sometimes you just got to.
Puppies.
Oh, tap the screen. Come on, let's get it going again, you know? Lordy, I had a good go in here too earlier and I just
ASL.
Pieced out. Hey, honey.
Hey, Jimmy. And Jimmy, I 100% agree with what you said in a Min's live. Yeah. Because look, I'm kind of in the same boat as SL. You took it because you wanted to go back to work. We were literally forced, the industry that I work in, I was literally forced to take all 3 vaccines if I wanted to continue to work.
Well, I don't like saying forced though, right? Because at the end of the day, it was our choice. So we can't say forced.
Well,
you could have found a different job, right?
No, well, not in the industry that I work with.
Yeah.
I had no
choice.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I literally had no choice. I got told either you will get the vaccine or you will lose your job. You will not be allowed to work in your industry. And for me, that was a complete and utter farce, and that's why I got annoyed with it. Now, that will stem on to what I was saying previously, is that if a certain demographic of people are being forced into doing something, and in this situation, it was everyone, we were forced to do something against our will. We should have that choice. We should have that choice for... Like, I was taking ivermectin, preemptively taking ivermectin. I never had a single case of COVID. And I can tell you that right now. I had never had a single case of COVID during the entirety. As soon as I had the first, because I had the Moderna Spikevax on all 3, I got severely sick very, very, very quickly. When I say severely, I'm talking to the point where I was about ready to go to hospital and go into the ICU. It was a little bit touch and go. Me personally, this is my own personal experience. Do you remember when H1N1 came out, the swine flu?
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't affect
H1N1. All right, H1N1, H1N6. Pfizer put out a vaccine for H1N1, H1N6. I got given that vaccine within 15 minutes. I was in the ICU because I'd stopped breathing. I was in the ICU, I'd stopped breathing, and I had a full adverse reaction. When I went to my doctor, to my general practitioner, to get an exemption for the COVID vaccine, because I had already proven that I had already had an instance of an adverse reaction to a vaccine. This is the same vaccine that Pfizer was told by the FDA to remove and ban from the US, and I'm pretty sure Canada banned it as well as a result of how many people it had actually killed.
And even if you go back
you got to use the proper language, okay?
Hey guys,
real quick. Even if you go back to one in the 80s, the swine flu in the 80s, there was a huge problem with the rollout of the jab for that as well. Like this is not something that evokes confidence at this point.
Correct.
People have goldfish memory.
I wanted to show respect and come in here real quick. I actually have shit to do as well, and I wanted to show respect and come through like I said I would. I apologize, but I just wanted to come to say thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I actually have shit to do. So thank you. I'll be back. I like arguing with people. All love, you know what I'm saying? If I've been anybody crazy, I'm sorry, you know what I'm saying? But I'll see y'all next time, okay?
Sounds good. See ya.
So for me personally, there, Jimmy, and to SL, when I was literally forced to make that decision, every single form, every single consent form that I signed, I signed big blackers. Now, under the Magna Carta, as soon as you sign something VC, V.C, as a part of the signature, it says under duress.
Yeah.
It is technically what it means, under duress. I've signed this under duress. That is your last line of defense. Now, I've taken, spoke to, there is currently a class action lawsuit in Australia where I live about the people who have been adversely affected by this vaccine, or this rollout of vaccines. And look, I'm pro-vaccination. I have had all my vaccinations up to date. But when I got the H1N,
Yeah, there's a difference between. There's a difference, though. Like, honestly, like Jimmy, don't you agree? There's a difference because like this was rolled out so quickly.
Well, there is a huge difference between a live attenuated vaccine versus an mRNA injection. Yeah, absolutely. They're not even the same ballpark. The only things that they have similarities is they're injected with a needle, right? Like there's nothing the same, right? The thing is the rollout on this stuff. That's it too. Like I was touching a bit on this earlier, right? Like so there is actually there is good evidence that this mRNA technology they could have a benefit, right? I just don't know if it's necessarily possible with an infection like COVID, right? With like a viral infection, right? So there does seem to be potential for it to be for it to be used on cancer, right? Like so. But I don't know. I think they probably tarnished the brand of this type of technology now, right? Which is also problematic for these people. But we have to remember, like, the big pharma industries and everything like that. The reason why that they have such immunity on this stuff, right? So when we look into it, so for all vaccines, right? So they said to the U.S. government that we're not going to be producing these vaccines anymore because we're getting slaughtered in the courthouse. Too many people are getting hurt. People are suing us. We can't turn a profit on this, and that's the only reason why they have immunity to legal ramifications for their products at this point, right? So they sold it as a net benefit, but they sold it as a net benefit to the people, right? And the companies just couldn't turn a profit on it because the lawsuits that were coming out of the states were crippling them. So that's why they get immunity on these things, right? So
for us down here in Australia, the government signed a contract that gave Pfizer 100% indemnity to any legal proceeding that the government, that the people would take against Pfizer for the vaccine for any adverse reactions. They signed it and they said, we will indemnify you 100%. Anything, there's no fallback on you. And the thing is, the Pfizer lawyers pushed that with the government. You want this vaccine, you will indemnify us.
Well, I mean, the only issue that I have, Marco, is that, like, everyone is bitching about the vaccine and all this and that, but, like, we didn't have to take it, right? Like, we as grown-ass adults took that risk to go back to work, right? So, like, any complications or any side effects that I have had, I have to own that because that was my choice at the end of the day, right?
Well, but for me personally, my choice was make sure that there's food on the table for my kids or starve.
Like, that's not really, yes, but no, that's not, like, really true because I mean, you could have found another place of work. There was other things that you could do.
No,
so to say that was forced
I'm the owner of my own.
You know what I mean? No one could force you to do anything.
Well, I own my own company.
So why would you be forced?
Because the industry that I work within mining and mining, oil, and resources. So I work within transport logistics with mining and mining resources and industry, primary industry. I was considered one of the necessary people. I run my own transport company, therefore I become what was the term that they used? There was a certain term that they used.
Essential worker. You're an essential worker.
That's the one, essential worker. Yes, I was an essential worker. Yes, correct.
Yeah, so was I. I went back to work 9 months pregnant. I was one of two.
So I get that. I understand that.
But yes, my service was essential.
Correct. My service was essential to the mining industry. So for me to go on a mine site, I needed to have my COVID vaccination. For me to go onto a port, I needed to have my COVID vaccination. For me to go to the airport, I needed to have my COVID vaccination. For me to go to any transport
I understand.
that is transporting goods.
We live in Canada.
I had to have my...
Jimmy, does it make sense what I'm saying?
I had to have my COVID vaccination. And that came from regulatory mandates, and that's where I was annoyed. I understand why they did it. Like, logically, I understand that they were trying to mitigate the risk, but at that point in time...
So, I'm sorry, who told you that you had to get it? May I ask that? Because, like, for me, it was my employer.
No.
So they did it exactly the same way that... They did it the exact same way that we did, right? So it was the same rollout throughout all the Five Eyes and many other nations, right? So what they did was they're like, you guys have to come up with the policy in regards to this. Now, the government, to be fair, never said what the policy had to be. Somebody could have been like, yeah, we have no policy on this. That's our policy. Or, yeah, our policy is that we do not require this. but these companies, these organizations, were looking for favorable loan rates, right? So the people that were forcing them on top of that were giving preferential rates and all of this stuff to apply these things, right? So this is how they did it. The government put it onto these large corporations and companies. When you're working in the mining industry or large restaurants, fast food service industries, any of these chain restaurants and stuff like that, then they absolutely went along with this stuff. So the government gets to stand there and say, no, we didn't force you. It was your corporation that did it, right? And at the time, I remember talking about
that is exactly what happened with us down here. The government said, I've still got the letter. I've still got the letter.
It was copy and paste between all the Five Eyes nations. All the they might have just changed up the wording a little bit, but if you look at it, it was a global. It was called Operation Lockstep. Right, all of these things were in place. Everything was ready. Canada actually got rid of our pandemic response network and adopted the WHO one. We had all these things in place, but all of a sudden, everybody had to go along with the exact same protocols, right? And it's odd. It's odd the way that it rolled out, right? But all the same excuses were made. All the same things happened. Everybody went through the same shit together all across the globe. Australia was pretty bad. Canada was pretty bad. New York State was worse than Canada. Well, maybe on par, right? But then if you look at this,
I'm going to say Victoria under Dan Andrews. My God, they got screwed.
He was a cunt.
Oh, he was. He was a cunt. I'm not going to lie. He was a cunt.
Doug Ford wasn't any better here in Ontario. Doug Ford was probably one of the worst. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't.
Yep.
He just went along with everything. The thing is the Ontario top doctor is actually on the board for Pfizer in the Lyme disease section, right? So like he hobnobs with these people. Our chief medical officer of health, Dr. Teresa Tam, famously featured on a pandemic fucking proposal documentary from like. You can't find that. You can't find that shit anymore. She was outlining all of these things. So like they've had these ideas for a long time, right? I think they just pounced on these ideas, and I hate to see that it happened to all Canadians on either side of the conversation. The fact that we're arguing with each other over this stuff right now, it should have never happened in the first place. We should have never been in the position to, none of us should have been faced with this, right? None of us on either side.
Well, here's the other thing. I live in WA, right? I live in Western Australia. We had Mark McGowan. Mark McGowan was a mini Dan Andrews. So we had the draconian, they locked our borders. They quite literally locked our borders. So me being an essential worker, I had to go across the paddock, which is the Nullarbor Road, the Nullarbor Highway, going out to the East Coast. And every single time I went across the border, I had to have a COVID test. I had to do the swab test every single damn time. And when I said to, I had some people at the health department who said to me, "You have to do it, otherwise the police will arrest you." I'm like, how is that even legal?
Hold on, I just gotta say this one thing to Hub in the comments, man. You've been following Jimmy around like you're a fucking hemorrhoid on his ass. Like, come up and say something with your chest if you have to. Honestly,
he's a baby back bitch. He can't. No, he's a baby back bitch. He never will.
That and Ross. Ross Defarian as well. He's the same.
Yeah, the fat Jamaican dude.
But the thing is, we shouldn't be arguing with each other on what had to happen because we all had to go through it.
I've got something to say to that.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I had a friend move to Australia right before COVID happened, and she experienced the exact same thing that Marco was just talking about. She said United Nations troops were in the street in full, like, bulletproof armor with masks.
I bet.
Like, respiratory masks, and they were going door to door arresting people that were not vaccinated.
Yep.
Yeah, so that happened. That was a real thing. I know this person personally, and I talked to her personally, like first-hand account. And that is a scary thing, that they were taking people out of their homes that were unvaccinated and putting them in concentration camps in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Can I have the whipped cream?
They'll deny that. Watch, just give it a second. No, it wasn't me, but give it a second in the comments here. I guarantee one of these yutzes will come up and be like, "That never happened. That doesn't happen. None of this happens." They're reality deniers, right? It's not even any way to bring them up. These people are absolutely 100%.
Where I live in WA, I live in Perth, right? North of Perth, halfway between Bullsbrook and Perth on starts with N, on that road going out towards Joondalup. If you have a look, there is actually a concentration camp there. It was a COVID camp. They built it. I know because I helped bring stuff in for that site. I helped bring in the sand. I helped bring in the transportable buildings. We were told that that is actually a COVID camp for segregation and isolation. Do you know?
So we also have the videos for the isolation camps that they had there. Absolutely, 100%. Australia did 100% build these things and force people to go to these. We saw it. We had it in Canada too, but it was in the use of empty hotels because all the hotels are empty. So the government was renting them out completely. So when you would come back in from Canada, even if you were vaccinated, you might have to go stay for 2 weeks in a hotel room where they would fucking monitor the hallways and feed you fucking food underneath the fucking door. Like, people are forgetting about all of the terrible things that we went through, right? I know time fucking heals all wounds, but like, we have to keep talking about this shit because this can never happen again. Never, ever, ever. That's an absolute governmental overreach that was well overblown for a virus that likely didn't hurt anybody, that wasn't at age or risk in the first place. You know, like, if you look at the numbers. Remember when they started trying to roll them out for kids? Like, I was screaming about that. I was like, "Where's the mama bears right now?" They by their own numbers, they're saying they're at zero. They're at zero risk, but they're carriers. Oh, the kids are dirty now. Little fucking plague rats running all over the place. Having to deal with yapping fucking chuckleheads on this app talking about how we were stupid and conspiracy theorists and all of the rest of the rot that we went through over this shit. And they expect us to let this go and just look for amnesty as like what the fucking Atlantic newspaper was trying to say. We should just forget about all the things that we did. We should forget about the police checkpoints. We should forget about asking the cops to stop people to see if they were on essential trips. We should stop thinking about the checkpoints between provinces. Absolutely undermining our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We should just forget about all that stuff, guys. It was one of those things that we just did. No big deal.
That didn't happen. Surely not. No. The thing is.
Well, the thing. Hold on. I want to say something. Because the thing with the kids was like that was kind of baloney, right? Like, my best friend is a nurse at the Alberta Children's Hospital, and like, I was in there with my kid, like I mentioned earlier, and she said that it was like dead. Like, the kids that got a positive test were just running around like crazy, and it didn't really have an impact on the children like it did on the elderly and the people that had underlying illnesses, right? Where if you got sick, it was going to make it worse. And that's just facts.
How you do this?
And like,
we know the numbers were skewed because, sorry about the background. The numbers were skewed because you could have died of cancer and had COVID, and they put it down as a COVID death. I mean, they've already come out and admitted that shit.
Yes, they have. Yeah. And that's like what Jimmy was saying earlier.
Kids
In the States, it was a complete and total psyop by the American government to see what they could get done and get controlled, and it was a failed fucking experiment.
Hold on a second. Kids can give it to their grandparents. Perfect. So does the vaccine stop contraction or transmission? Yes or no?
It wasn't COVID that actually.
Marco, give me a second. Give me a quick second just to nail this fucking comment down. Y'all forget kids can give it to their grandparents. Stop embarrassing yourselves. Does the vaccine stop contraction or transmission? Yes or no?
Secondary infection.
No.
Was it ever tested to do so?
No.
No. Were we told that by the government on a lie and by mainstream media like Rachel Maddow famously did? No. So stop with that bullshit. You're being disingenuous, and I'm going to have to call you bad faith.
Well, I want to answer one of Hub's fucking things. Blame the federal government, not the provincial governments. Well, if I recall, the federal government told our provincial government if it did not follow along with the fucking narrative, they were going to withhold the fucking federal funding for our healthcare system. Am I wrong when they say that, or when I say that?
No, you're absolutely right, Brian. Thanks for that, because you brought up a great point.
So if they were going to withhold the federal funding for our provincial governments, you think the provincial governments were going to just say, okay, no, we're not going to follow the narrative. We're just going to continue on going in the path that we're going. No, the federal fucking government forced the fucking provincial government's hands to do what they did. And that's why we got stuck in the situation we got stuck in.
Yeah, they were going to fine them if they didn't go along, basically. They were going to remove funding. And if they did go along, they would reward them by giving more money. And if they marked it down as a COVID death, they would get more funding, right? Like these are things that we fucking know to be true. There's still people on this planet right now that are somehow out here stimping for fucking overreaching governments, communist overreaching governments, and fucking big pharma. I can't believe that these people still exist in this day and age, to be honest with you. But here we are on TikTok, still dealing with this 3 years after the fucking fact.
Well, exactly, and the fact that there was like nothing about the flu that year or the 2 years, and that's in itself is sketchy as shit. Like everything was just COVID based. There was no flu. Hi,
You
Slip,
know, the
how are
funniest
you?
thing is, funniest thing is when COVID arised, as everybody calls it, COVID. I call it the fucking flu, but whatever. When COVID arised, bronchitis went away, pneumonia went away, flu went away, all our other natural fucking sicknesses went away. They just up and disappeared. COVID took them all over. COVID was the one that fucking destroyed every other flu vaccine, every other common cold that we had. So they all just disappeared. Now we don't even talk about the regular flu.
It was COVID.
Now we don't talk about the flu. We don't talk about bronchitis. We don't talk about pneumonia. We don't talk about none of that shit. Like, did all that shit just disappear? Like, come on, guys, wake up.
Sonia, just before we continue, can you click on Hub's head there, his little icon, and see if you can request him up? I would love to have a conversation.
I've requested him 37 times. Every time he says
you can't bring somebody up that's only got 100 or 214 followers. 214 followers.
214. I thought
he's only got
you absolutely can request him to come up if they don't have 1,000. They can't request. They can't turn on their camera.
No, he
can.
No,
you can request.
That's right. 200 you can come up now.
Thank you, SL. I have 200.
If you can request him,
Thanks to your suggestion.
I just need to make a statement real quick, guys, that I will not speak in this panel until I have 1,000 coins. It costs for me to speak.
No one's gifting anymore because TikTok's asking everybody to put their fucking ID in the fucking exchange coin.
Y'all. Go for it.
Can I make one suggestion?
Look at Mark getting the gifts too. Like, you guys are all falling into Mark's bullshit.
That's his wife. His wife is doing it.
Hey, that's enough out of you two. You guys be quiet. What is that? How does Jimmy get 100 coins and I get? What the there we go. Thank you, Elena. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
900 more, guys. 900 more. Jimmy, you need to be quiet.
There you
get 1,000.
There you go. Mark, you got the stage.
All right, I'm not gonna talk until I get to 105 coins.
No, shut up. Someone was gonna say something.
I want to hear your $5 worth of your content there, Mark.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, well, there you go, Bree. Thanks, Bree. I appreciate that, buddy. There. Now you're not gonna get me to stop talking now.
I only have one. It's not fair. What's up? Spread the wealth.
Slip talk.
All right.
Slip, go on.
I'm waiting for Mark.
Hold on, I'm gifting right now, Bree guys. Yeah, it's like we do the favor, we return the favor.
Oh my
Bry guy, it's Bry guy.
Thanks,
Bry guy. Sorry, Bry guy. My bad. Bry guy.
Bree guy.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's my transitioning
What
mode.
are
Bree.
you fucking handing him goddamn gifts? He hasn't given me shit.
Good morning, my favorite Canadians. How goes becoming the 51st state?
We're still up here under communist rule. When are you going to come liberate us?
Hey, the Americans had to do it themselves. You got to do it yourself.
I think people are still forgetting about the. People are forgetting about the sudden adult syndrome there where everyone was dying. SADS, isn't that what it was called?
Isn't
that what it was called?
Population of Canada is not that much. We got like
sudden
30,000
adult
people.
death. Yeah, sudden adult death syndrome.
Also known as
whatever
unknown
happened to
deaths.
that?
You know what's Mark? It's actually popped back up as unknown deaths, which are up 38% in Canada this year.
Right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like it's funny that we all of a sudden there's something that's it's detrimental to society. We don't know what it is. We don't know what the common factor is for some unknown reason, yet a lot of us do. And we're not even talking about that, or the government or the news. Nobody's talking about this. Wouldn't you want to know what the hell is suddenly killing people? Wouldn't you want to know what that is?
Unaliving, Mark, okay? Let's not get my life taken down, okay?
You
Mass
want to know what's killing
murdering.
everybody right now?
That's what's going on.
You guys actually want to know what's killing everybody right now? The stress, stress to find out where your next meal's coming from. The stress to figure out when you're going to be able to pay your hydro bill. The stress to fucking figure out when you're going to be able to clothe your kids with new clothing. The stress to fucking the cost of living. That's what's killing people. The number one killer nowadays is stress.
What happens? So I hear a lot of people.
You got to follow that fucking narrative, right? No, stress is the number one killer. Like it's happening. You know, so many people are so stressed out nowadays. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to even get up in the morning and come onto a TikTok or whatever, and all it is drama, arguing, fighting. You know, when are we actually going to be better than this fucking narrative that they're spewing? Because this is the narrative they want. This is the narrative that keeps going. And if we all keep following with this narrative, we are the problem ourselves, because we are the ones that are creating the problem by following through with this narrative.
It's the same narrative here in America, and you are absolutely correct, my friend. You are absolutely correct about everything you are saying.
Mark, stop pimping yourself.
When are we going to wake up? When are we going to wake up and just get over this? You know, when are we going to stop spewing this nonsense?
You want mod? Yeah. Don't
I just want to make
I'll be
poll.
peeved.
I'm not going to block anybody. I need to make a poll.
There you go, sir.
Mark, I just typed in the chat, and now that the conversation stopped a little bit.
Hold on, I can't hear anybody. Everyone's going at the same time.
So can I answer
need to be able to
your
give
comments?
points, so I don't want to do that.
Can I answer a girl in your comments?
Sure.
When I think it was Jimmy that was talking about the slowing of the bug, right? And a girl in the comments said what slowed the bug was wearing mask and SD and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to give you the science behind it. The mask literally did nothing. That was like mud being thrown at a chain link fence. COVID's measurements is 0.006 microns. The weave of a mask is 1.227 microns.
Well, I mean, Craig, to be honest, I mean, I can get into that too because I work dental. And to be fair, you can really pay attention to the comments up in here because we all got a bunch of fans.
Answering the young lady. But what did slow the bug was people actually being clean, not breathing in each other's faces, washing their hands.
I think breathing in faces is
the idea of what she said was incorrect.
I don't agree.
You know what slowed the freaking bug and why the bug just disappeared? Because millions of people came together, they stood side by side, they got infected with it, their natural immunity took care of the fucking virus, and then it all of a sudden disappeared. People don't understand that the way we did it when we were kids. I'm 40 years old. Hold on. I'm 40 years old, and when I was a kid, we had chicken pox parties. We got all the kids together that had chicken pox, and we all fucking got chicken pox because our immune system was there to fight that chicken pox. You know, so COVID, that's what happened. All the truckers, all the convoys, all the protests, they all came together. Nobody was wearing masks. Everybody was talking. Everybody was handshaking. Everybody was hugging. Everybody was spreading that fucking virus. You know what I mean? So everybody's natural immune system kicked in, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared, guys. Wake up.
You're absolutely correct. And, you know, one more piece of it, like the actual science of it is when a parasitic bug actually comes into being, at first it becomes lethal, right? But when a parasitic respiratory bug comes into being, throughout the generations, it doesn't want to kill it toast, right? So what it does
Can we, for the love of Christ, say unaliving? Because I'm dropping anybody.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, but it doesn't want to unalive its host. So every generation gets a little less lethal. They keep saying there's a new variant. Yeah, there's a new variant, but each variant is a little less lethal than the next one. Right, and basically now is no different from the flu because of what he said. We got natural immunity now, right?
Well,
and we've all been exposed
yourself to there, though, because you said earlier that like.
What did it mean?
Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Because like when we look at viruses, especially, they can be able to evolve, and when they evolve, they can still have the same dangers behind them. Yeah, I don't agree with the mask. But even with that, I would just say that we can't just sit here and say that COVID is going to evolve into a less dangerous
Can you give me
strand.
an example of a respiratory virus that has gotten more dangerous throughout its course that it runs through humanity?
Yeah, I got you, Jimmy. We can look at the flu.
We can look at the flu.
Yeah, people still get unalived. Yeah, so Jimmy, people still get unalived by the flu.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
strand.
My mother passed away from the flu after getting a fucking hepatitis line blood transfusion. So yeah.
I would
so
not
I'm
say
aware
the
of
flu
that.
is a respiratory either, is it?
No, it is.
You know what respiratory is? Respiratory is bronchitis and pneumonia. Those are respiratory
Can you give
illnesses.
your mods more power? Because I can't make a pull.
Those are the illnesses that we should be watching out for is pneumonia and bronchitis because those will get worse if not treated. You know what I mean? So did they take
when you point towards the flu, right? What you're not saying is that there's new strains of flu. Typically, when we get a flu shot, it was for the last year's most.
Yeah, I know it's for the last year one, but even with that, like you asked me for a simple one, there you go, the flu. Yes,
but it's gone though. The flu hasn't gotten more dangerous for people. You can look at the numbers year over year over year. There are new strains that come out. There could be some that are problematic, right? But like that doesn't necessarily mean that the old strain that has been killed off by the collective immune system.
Unalived or gone.
Oh, my bad. My bad. Unalived.
Yeah, so even with that,
Hold on a second. Mark, I don't know how to do that. You have them all.
I struggle with the fact that TikTok hasn't figured out what we mean when we say unalived, and they have a problem with us using the other terminology. But anyways, I'll move forward with it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So even with that, we can look at the statistics. Yes, the statistics still show about the same number of people get unalived with the situation. Some years it's going to be higher than others. We can look at the year of 2020, and we can look at it at 2015 too. There's two different strands, and in 2020 they actually had a higher unaliving rate when it came to the flu shot.
No, that's not true. So yeah, there's multiple strains of the flu that go on, right? So there isn't one or the other. There's multiples, right? And that's why they were upset with this COVID thing, called it a global pandemic, because it was a single pathogen that was going across the globe, apparently, right? But just like SARS-CoV-1 was stopped with hydroxychloroquine, we weren't allowed to use that because they had an invested effort into trying to dose and mass test mRNA technology to find out what the actual numbers would be, whether it was viable to move forward, because the plan is to use this mRNA technology for everything forward, right? So we know last week it was released in Canada that phase 3 testing was never completed before the administration of the shot and the forced administration of the shot to all Canadian citizens, right? So we were phase 3, right? So that's the only way. And they've been hiding the numbers from us and the actual detriment from all this stuff. And they use things like when people say, well, if you look at the VAERS reporting system, they're like, VAERS is unreliable. Well, I would agree with people when they say VAERS is unreliable. It's actually well underreported than it actually should be, right? So these are situations and things where doctors had a vested interest not to fucking shoot themselves in the foot, where they were trying to hide adverse reactions and potential unalivings from the vaccine and masking actual COVID unalivings by saying that the comorbidities were not the determining factor of them losing their life, right?
Yeah,
this is a huge boondoggle. But the thing is like once they've gone down this path, they can't walk it back now, right? So it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of time to actually get them to walk this back. But we've seen this kind of action and behavior from these pharmaceutical industries, and when government starts to promote this stuff as well, right? So there's a double factor when we look into this, because the liability falls upon a lot of people in a lot of powerful positions, and because of that power, they're going to be able to stay away from that stuff, right? So anyways, that's my little rant. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with the situation where it comes to some of the numbers when it comes to the statistics. Yeah, I completely agree. They are skewed. But when we're even talking about this, you just wanted something that was common that we can be able to see. Okay, when we look at like the not COVID, but like the flu, we can see that there's going to be certain years where it's going to be higher unaliving than other years. And you ask for a simple one, I gave you the flu.
Has the flu actually been stated to actually unalive somebody?
What I'm saying though is that statement is disingenuous because it's It's a new flu strain every year, right? So it's not the flu gets attenuated. Hold on a sec. The flu gets attenuated. So whatever strain of flu that we have, whether it's H1N1, H1N5, any of these things, they all get attenuated as they run their course through the collective human immune system, right? So new strains always pop up, but that's not. It's disingenuous to say that they get worse. It's not the same strain. We fight off those strains every single year.
We can be able to see that different strains can do different types of reactions to bodies, which this is where, like, I personally don't believe in that.
It's not the same virus, though, right? Like you're saying, it's a different flu virus, right? It's a different strain. So to say that it doesn't get attenuated as it passes through our immune systems is just disingenuous.
I mean, we can be able to see different people's bodies react differently to certain types of.
Hold on a second, Spiteful. You need to just calm down, man. I'm letting you up, okay? I'm having a hissy fit over here. What do you got to say?
So real quick, hold on, let me roll with that.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
So I'm 55. I've had appendicitis. I've had walking pneumonia. I've never had the flu until my daughter was born, and they told me I had to get the flu shot to protect her, so I went and done it. 3 days after that, I was down in the bed for 4 days with 102-degree temperature, with the worst. Dude, I thought I was gonna fucking die from that fucking vaccine. Explain how that works.
Yeah, I don't recommend getting the flu
vaccine. Never had the
vaccine.
flu. And go get the flu vaccine, and then I'd nearly die from that shit.
No, I don't recommend getting the flu vaccine.
So the latest.
Well, you shouldn't be recommending
that
anything because this is
with,
TikTok Live and we're not doctors.
So the latest one that's coming out was only tested on 10 mice.
If you're going to do that, say in your opinion.
Yeah, no.
Hold on,
honestly,
Slip is talking. Jesus, give him a minute.
So the latest vaccine that they want to push out is was only tested on 10 mice. Right?
Which one?
The latest one that they're doing for the fall here.
The COVID one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will never get the COVID vaccine.
That's what I've read in the paper. I've read the same thing, that it was only tested on 10 mice. Now, is that true or not? I don't know. It's
and
the
for
news.
a very limited period of time.
Can
I
we
just have to say
get the
that
first
everybody
behind it?
in your comments, you're unaliving it in here. You're just really bringing
Can we
information.
like,
Yes.
Can we agree as a community here? I think we're all on the same page relatively, but chicken pox parties were not I mean, I was born in I was born in 91, and so I think the message was from him was saying we used to do this, we didn't care about bacteria and all that stuff, but chicken pox parties were not an actual thing, right? Like no parent sent their kids.
Sure they were. Sure, I went to one.
Yeah,
They were.
100%.
Sure they were. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
They were a thing.
100% they were.
They absolutely were. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes,
I 100% had one with
Before
two of my
that,
friends.
measles and prior to the measles and mumps vaccines, those were too. People used to purposely do that. Absolutely.
Never heard of that.
Yep.
I've never heard tell of that.
No, it's real.
Yeah.
It's fucking real, bro.
I participated in a few of those chickenpox parties because I wouldn't catch it the first time. So yes, it's very true.
I got one chicken pox when I went over to my buddy Andrew's place. I remember the day very clearly. They had a party at my buddy Andrew Anderton's house. Sounds like a fake name, but it's not. And I got one chicken pox, and the scar is still directly above my belly button. Yep.
So that wasn't.
So real quick, has anybody thought to talk about the Amish community and the fact that that is the largest unvaccinated community on the planet, and they don't have things like ADHD, autism.
Yeah.
They don't have chicken pox, measles running rampant through their community like we do ours.
There's a number of factors for that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, well, they're not.
I was going to say, state your resources. Where are the receipts for that? We need to hear the receipts. Where are the receipts?
Well, it's real tough to get the Amish ones, right? Because they don't really like to talk to government or media, and the media doesn't have a vested interest in putting this information out as well, though. But I have a lot of Amish that live around me, so I've had anecdotal conversations that I can't produce as facts right now. But yeah, I can say that in my experience, that is a very true statement.
Well, my family is from a really, really small remote place on the Lower North Shore, and they have not had that shit there.
Show your support for my comment by throwing me a galaxy or two. I mean, it's just unreal. This guy's got 1.K. I mean, what the fuck?
That's because Mark is basically
Listen,
No,
Jim,
that's
Jim.
because I gave away my dinner money today. You know, I gave away my lunch money today so I can hear Mark speak, and he hasn't even spoken.
I
I'm
throw
very
the hammer
offended.
down when it needs to be thrown down. That's why everyone just waits for the aha moment, and I just bide my time.
He's my backup.
I speak right now. That's it. I'm still waiting for Jimmy to give me the universe. So Jimmy and I had an agreement, and he still hasn't given me a universe yet.
Mark, they want my idea.
Mark,
I'm sorry.
Lead by example. Mark, lead by example and throw me a galaxy. Show him how it's done.
Lead by example. If you don't send me a line, you're anti-Semitic. It's as easy as that.
I'm sorry, but if anyone's going to be hooking for things here, it's going to be me, okay? I'm the only woman. I think also
Hey, no. Stop using your women privilege and get back to doing your
You're using your woman card right now.
This is the man space here. What are you talking about?
No, guys, listen. She needs to do her domestic duties here.
I'm emptying the dishwasher, Happy. Shut your fucking face.
Patriarchy.
With all these men in here, when are you going to start making sandwiches?
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
We had the sandwiches we wanted. That's fucking rude.
Oh my
One thing I'm sure we can all agree on is patriarchy allows feminism to exist. So let's just go with that, okay?
I can't take the misogyny.
I want to pull out my white privilege card, guys. I'm going to use my white privilege card and say we need to get rid of all this hate and anger and, you know, because I'm white privileged, I'm allowed to do that, right?
For TikTok purposes, it's YT. You can't say white, it's YT.
Mark, I think today's the day we're going to do our background.
I would like to say, since I'm transracial.
Hey, I'm talking, Happy. Mark, today's the day we're going to do our background.
Are we going to do it today?
Yeah, today's the day, honey.
All right, good.
Okay. So since I'm transracial and transgender and non-binary, all the alphabetic.
Trans. No,
wait, hold on. Just let me get to my point. I'm gonna use my trans card and transracial card since I'm black now. I would like to say that white privilege does not exist and feminism is a joke since I'm a transgender.
I would like to thank the patriarchy for allowing feminism to exist, because without the patriarchy, we would never be able to have that happen. So.
Again,
I don't
Jimmy,
know. My white privilege still allows me to live in poverty.
Your white privilege allows you to live in poverty. What the fuck?
Me.
Hey guys, you're really switching the topics up here.
I'm pretty sure we're going to get a count Neander today, just saying.
Not mine. This is for educational purposes only.
Alex, are you still shocked that we actually had
fucking determine between satire, comedy? Jesus Christ, these fucking weak-minded sons of bitches.
I'm sure we're going to get a count Neander today.
What was my question? You asked me a question. Somebody asked me a question. What was the question? No?
Hold on here. I got a lady coming up who actually wants to talk about education.
So I was asking Alex if he's so surprised.
I'll drop out,
Nikki.
I got to get to work, okay?
Yeah, man, your background. You got to fix that shit.
Nikki,
you're coming in. You have to give both Jimmy and myself a universe
I work for a
first.
living. I feed the country, okay? I feed the world
Nikki.
with what I do for a living.
I'm the one that makes it so you can be able to feed the country.
There is a lack of respect in this live. Nobody's listening to anybody, and we're all just trying to get fucking talking points out. I asked Alex, are you still surprised that we actually experienced chickenpox parties?
Thank you, Jimmy.
I am completely flabbergasted on that. I did because like I said, I was born in '91, so I thought the relevance of the conversation was like, look, we didn't wash our hands, we weren't scared, like we didn't mask up, we weren't scared of it, but like to actually throw chickenpox parties. Like, it blows my mind. It blows my fucking mind.
The thing is that we also know that COVID
Hold on, you guys. One at a time. It sounds like a freaking nightmare.
We also know that COVID is an aerosol, right? So it's not transferred by surfaces either. So I'm not by any means saying that people shouldn't be clean and wash their hands. That is definitely something that probably likely helps. But like, it doesn't, like when it first rolled out, they were telling us that it could live on cardboard boxes for up to 10 days. right? So like none of the things that we were told.
What I'm asking is like, did like parents like align evenings? Like, did they set up times where like chicken pot parties happen? Like, hey, let's get together.
100%.
We'll get them chicken pops. Was that a thing?
100%.
Do we all understand the reason why we threw chickenpox parties? It's similar to that of what they're telling us now, that if you get vaccinated, you gain a little bit of immunity so that you don't get such harsh symptoms, right? That was the same idea behind a chickenpox party, because if you get it when you're young, you'll be perfectly fine. You'll get a couple of spots and dots, a tiny little fever, and you'll go about your way. I've got a nice little mark on my cheek, actually, from my chickenpox party. So if you're born in the 80s, you kind of had that idea going around parents, and they would all stick you together. You get it over with, and you're good.
No, I totally understand the logic. I totally understand it. But could you imagine applying that logic to today's society? Like, people would call...
That's exactly the logic that they had behind vaccines that weren't
CPS on you.
tested for transmission.
Yeah. Okay.
No, Spiteful is correct. I mean, that's the thing, is we've become so soft. And again, at what point in time did your natural immunity system become obsolete?
Exactly.
When we started killing everything with when we started killing all our bacteria with hand sanitizers, chemicals that we clean our houses with. The thing that people don't understand is that we need the bad bacteria to keep our bodies going. And when we were all washing our hands and sanitizing our hands, we were actually killing off the bacteria, the bad bacteria that is actually good for our bodies. I work in the construction industry. I still eat my...
Brian, I told you 100 times to use the proper words on TikTok. You are more than welcome to come back up when you get your verbiage corrected.
Is he gone?
Want to get me taken down?
What happened?
So when Omicron
a message to the rest of you.
Listen, warnings.
Let that be a message to the rest of us. She is willing to drop us on a whim. Make sure you follow the rules of the live. Also, guys, during this quick commercial break, don't forget to guest the host and thank her for it. Tap the screen, share the live out, and make sure you share some of these gifts with some of the panel as well. Thanks, guys.
Lucky.
So when Omicron first came out,
I love that word. I love that.
Brian,
so when Omicron first came out, how many times did I fucking say that? So when Omicron first came out, our top leading doctor in the world, Mr. fucking Bill Gates, said that sadly, exposure and our immune system to it was far greater than any vaccine they ever could put out for it.
And that's correct. What he's saying is correct.
Guy.
Exactly.
Have you ever listened to Fauci's speech in like 1980s and then the COVID speech? It's literally the same thing. He just twists words around or switches words.
Anthony Fauci, like Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, I saw him talk
Okay.
about the AIDS pandemic, and then I'm like, why does this sound so familiar? And it's literally the same spiel. Like it's freaking.
I noticed the correlation as well. It was pretty disturbing.
You looking at the troubles, the damage that AZT caused. Like the solution for HIV and AIDS was AZT, which was a shot that was categorically a huge failure, objective failure that hurt a lot of people, right? And we know these things. You can look back into the early 80s with the original swine flu vaccine, the problems that caused. You know what I mean? There's always been accounts of the flu vaccine creating Bell's palsy, Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, all kinds of natural things that are not nasty things that occur from these things, right? And I'm not saying it's going to happen to everybody, but some people are more susceptible. This should not be a one-stop shop for curing something. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous that we've gotten to this, and we can never forget what they did to us, and we can never allow it to happen again.
Hey, Jimmy, I'm just going to say this really quickly. I'm just going to say this really quickly about the whole thing, the vaccine thing and everything else. I'm going to go on to, I'm going to use not an adage, but I'm going to use a paradigm I was told about. Not a paradigm, but I was told something about it when I was doing some computer programming. Why is there no such thing as the perfect program? There is not one version of a program. There's multiple versions. Things mutate. I saw it on Facebook the other day when I was scrolling through Facebook online. What doesn't unalive me mutates and tries again.
Well, I've never heard that, but what I have heard about viruses is as they mutate, they get a lot weaker. Like transmission gets higher, but they're weaker. So what we're dealing with now should be less than a flu.
Correct.
Yeah.
Virus, like a parasite, it does not want to kill its host, right? Or unalive its host. Sorry, SL, my bad. So, right? So, don't treat me like Bri, I swear. So I'm catching myself. But anyways, I'm catching myself. But right, like so, as it can be a detriment, but as it goes through our collective immune system, it does attenuate, right? The idea that this thing would somehow want no host left to continue living on is absurd, right? So we need to understand that these things are true. These are scientific facts, right? So to think that it's not trying to stay in circulation and out of its own self-survival is nonsense. We've seen this throughout all kinds of respiratory viruses and pathogens before. So.
Well, and I was saying earlier,
hold on. What about pneumonia? Pneumonia doesn't try to keep the host alive at all. If anything, it tries to kill the host.
That's not a virus.
Pneumonia is not a virus.
Is it not a side effect of a virus?
No, it's not.
No, it's a bacterial infection. It's a bacterial infection.
Well, that's what they originally were saying it was, but then we're having. Hold on, let me just finish this thought for a sec. That's originally what we were talking about, right? That it was bacterial, but then how did they come to the conclusion that COVID-19, one of the symptoms of it was breathing issues?
Because it's an upper respiratory virus, right? And then when you have that diminished immune system, the bacteria is allowed to move in and then create the pneumonia, right? So we learned that way back in 1918 during the Spanish flu, where many of the people that lost their lives back then it was because of bacterial pneumonia. Now, I actually heard a doctor on the radio in Toronto. I wish I had recorded it, but he actually alluded to the fact that when they were going right through the middle of this in like 2020, 2021, that what they were seeing was most causes of loss of life was from COVID-related pneumonia, right? And this comes from wearing wet masks on your face, having a lowered immune system from the infection, trying to fight off this pathogen that you have, and leaving yourself susceptible towards other things that can contribute to your loss of life, or detriment to your health.
Yeah, no, Jimmy, I understand what you're saying. My question being is that wouldn't that be a correspondence to the virus in and of itself? If that's one of the side effects a virus does.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Right. So that would be alongside of the infection, you would get this bacterial issue, right? So that it would leave you open towards that, which yes, you could attribute, I guess, to the actual infection from the virus itself. I suppose. Yeah, it would go hand in hand, right? Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm referring to.
You can stop those kind of things from happening by boosting your immune system and helping it out by using vitamins, getting vitamin D into you, zinc, and all of these things as well that help support your immune system, right? So there's ways around it without having to use the medical intervention that they actually prescribe to all of us. So.
Well, wait, hold on a sec, Jimmy. Are you saying that eating healthy, getting your vitamins and minerals that you need might actually stop you from being sick?
Wow, it's a wild thought, I know, and I know it's kind of.
Where did you come up with this? I'm going to give you a gift for that.
It's wild. It's on the fringe of science.
That's right.
I know. I'm going out on a limb here, saying that if you treat your body well and you're healthy, and you make sure that you supplement properly and get all the necessary vitamins, nutrients, and minerals into you, and say your prayers, brother, you might actually be in a better shape than if you had.
How dare you say this on TikTok Live?
Hold on.
Very brave, very bold, very beautiful, Jimmy.
Misinformation there, Jimmy. Misinformation.
Stemming from what you just said. So, do we have an answer of why political leaders and stuff like the mayor of New York came out and said, "Hey, if you get the vaccine, you get a free cheeseburger and fries," or if you get the vaccine, you get Dunkin' Donuts, you get
money.
So why?
Why do I think it is? It's not money. No, it's not money, Marco. So what I think it is that they were trying to remove the control group, which would be the unvaccinated. They wanted us to be the limited amount, right? Because if they knew early on that this thing was a detriment to people's health and it's causing all the things that people have espoused, right? The less people that had it would be the less obvious when everybody's health as a community starts to diminish, right? So like if the smaller the control group, which would be the unvaccinated is, the easier it is to hide the adverse effects and the things that are going to happen to everybody else, right?
So do they think we're stupid? Like you're trying to push this agenda. You're trying to push this vaccine on to the most people possible. And the category, the area of people that you are trying to target, it makes no sense to me. Like,
it's spiteful. You're literally answering your own question, buddy. You're answering your own question there, because at the end of the day, look at how many people took it. Yes, people are that stupid. Yes, people believe it. Yes, people want to feel safe. And again, Fauci even talked about this. He first said masks don't do a fucking thing. And if they do anything, it's so minuscule that it's not even worth talking about, right?
So did Tam.
Then he flipped it and said, wait, don't just wear one mask. Don't just wear two masks. Let's triple mask this son of a bitch and see how this works. And then hold on, let me finish, guys. Then you go to the CDC site and you start talking about smoke inhalation from the forest fires. And guess what they say about that? They say that a mask won't do shit with black smoke. It won't help. It won't prevent you from getting sick. It won't do shit. How does that make sense? That it'll help prevent you against a virus, which are thousands of times smaller than the particles than it is in the particles in black smoke. How does that make sense?
Okay, Mark. I'm in the camp of vaccinated, but I'm pro-vaccination, but I'm pro-choice. I was highly against this vaccine specifically because of how quick it was rolled out, no safety testing done, and the way it was done, and the coercion and everything else. So I'm in the camp of I don't like this one. The only way for a mask, and I use that in quotations, to be effective is you need a full face mask, i.e. a respirator, with the correct filters that'll filter out biological material. Now, I can tell you right now that
I agree with you. Who was wearing those?
Nobody.
They weren't pushing. They weren't pushing. And you also had to be You also had to be shaven.
Let me grab
when you're getting.
Let me grab a quick
one
comment.
sec, Jimmy. One sec, buddy. One sec. You also had to be shaven. Listen, I take PPE courses every year. You have to be well shaven. You have to be fitted for your mask, and this is just for fucking drywall dust. This has nothing to do with the virus. This is just for drywall dust. Don't tell me that N95s and fucking cloth masks that they were selling by the millions were doing fucking anything, because all it was doing was hindering your ability to breathe. That's all it was doing.
Exactly. So for me there, Mark.
Aerosol spread is 30 feet, right? Aerosol spread is 30 feet.
Give me 30 seconds here, guys, and you can go again. I just want to grab a quick comment. Wow, it's almost like smoke is different than a virus. Nothing gets past these scholars. Nothing gets past us. That's why we know that smoke particles are about 1 million times larger than a virus particle. And you know how we know this? Because I can see smoke. I can see smoke. I can't see a virus particle. So when Mark is saying something along the lines of don't bother trying to wear a paper surgical procedural mask to think that you're going to somehow avoid smoke inhalation, because that's just not a fact. How then, if you apply that same knowledge to the fact that COVID particles are probably 1 million times smaller than a fucking smoke particle, would a mask have any fucking suitable fucking...
We're not commoners. We're not common sensors.
Anyways, thanks. I know I'm a scholar, but at least I'm not a dumb.
I just want to say, so like in dental, right? We got tested for the N95, which involves a person coming in and you're being fitted, and they put a whole dome over your face, and you have to go through the smell tests to make sure that nothing can seep through, aerosols, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. So we all got fitted for those, and that lasted like a week because the cost of it was too high. So then we went back to the blue masks, which were what? Being mass produced by who? Our government. And we're being told that we have to wear them all the time. They did nothing. They do nothing. You cannot prevent aerosols from penetrating the standard blue hospital mask.
Correct. So, sorry, SL.
Yeah, it's like a sneeze guard on a salad bar. Like, that's it. It's just going to stop you from spitting on people, and we know it's aerosol. It doesn't get traveled by droplets. So yeah.
Correct.
I had a buddy that made
30 feet. It travels 30 feet, right?
I had a buddy that made, I think it was, what did he tell me? 5.7 million he made selling masks for 3 months.
Yep.
He made
So,
that
Mark,
like in his pocket, 5.7 million in 3 months.
Mark, I work in, like I said previously before I lost my connection, I work in mining, oil and gas industry, right? That I work in transport logistics in that field.
Yep.
In primary industry. I work with sodium cyanide on a regular basis. Sodium cyanide and sulfuric acid on a regular basis. For me to be able to work with that PPE, I need to be clean shaven. 2, I need to have a face fit. You know what I'm talking about when it comes to a face fit. So for me, a 3M medium works well for me, and I've got a large face. But the only way for me to get a good seal on that is to go through all these procedures. And I asked the question. I said, would my full face respirator that I use for work protect me? They said no. I said, why is that? They said that the HEPA filters that we use will not filter out biological material. You will still be susceptible to it. It is there for bigger particles. The particles of the virus are too small. You need a pressurized suit and a positively pressurized suit running through a HEPA filter. And I'm sorry, but no one's going to do that.
No, because we'd all be walking around in hazmat suits. That's the only way that you can actually go into any virus area that has, the contaminated area is with a hazmat suit. That's the only way. So all of this, I mean, Jesus Christ, the boxes that the masks came in had a fucking warning symbol saying this does not stop the spread of the viruses. This will not help you. And people were still wearing the goddamn masks.
Can we not forget? Can we not? Hold on. Can we just all take a moment to remember when our politicians were on TV and the masks were under their nose every fucking time?
Yeah. How about the amount of times they got caught on they got caught on hot mic saying, I don't know, I just fucking read what they give to me. And then you'd catch them backstage standing around without them on, to put them on to go on stage, to stand behind a fucking podium, take them off to put fucking face again. Right? Like, come on, man.
Just put it on
and then when Obama had his birthday party and all these bigwig fucking socialites showed up and nobody was wearing masks and they got exposed, the news media came out and said, well, they're sophisticated. They know better. They're sophisticated. What the fuck, man? Like, and everybody ignores these things, you know, like these.
And then when you went to the washroom, you had to put your mask on just to walk to the washroom.
But see, Jimmy, that's the old adage: rules for me and rules for thee.
Well, it is, but can we also take a moment to remember that COVID only came out in between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m.?
Yes, yes, I remember that. I remember that.
Listen, just go try to find some toilet paper.
Right?
Try to find some toilet paper to clean up your dog's fucking excrement, because there's no way that the dog's gonna. Hey, listen, man, you're doing it for the team. You got to protect grandma. Let your dog shit on the floor. Like, what the fuck?
Oh my lord!
I love that. Though.
We also take a moment to remember the great toilet paper pandemic, which was actually more harmful to humanity than the virus ever was.
Hey, Mark. All I'm gonna say right now is.
The 6 feet thing was complete bullshit too. They said that there was only fucking any sort of discernible science on it that would be 3 feet, but they arbitrarily made 2 meters the number because they felt like it was the right thing to do, right? So,
when the whole toilet paper thing happened there, Mark, I started stockpiling toilet paper and I was selling out toilet paper, calling it Buttcoin.
I never had a problem finding anything.
Oh, down here, we've got 2 Costco. Oh, we had 1 Costco. They would get a pallet of toilet paper, the big Kirkland's toilet paper. You know which one I'm talking about. They would get that within 8 minutes. It was gone.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You guys don't think they controlled that market and told them to slow it down? Like, look at it. Remember the pictures of what, like, the Prankville lumber jumped through the roof, and it still hasn't returned yet. But there was videos of lumber yards stocked 40, 50 feet tall with just lumber waiting there, but they weren't putting it in the stores, right? So it was all ready to go, but they wouldn't let it out, right? Like, if we think for all of a sudden there was enough buying power in the general public because they were so afraid that they bought all the toilet paper, there was a small group of people that bought, 10% of people got wise to it and bought 100% of the toilet paper. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. That was also instilled to or put in place to instill fear. It's
fear mongering. It's fear mongering.
Well, let's quickly address one of these comments there that said instead of telling us or saying all the things that the face masks didn't do, let's talk about the positive parts of what the face masks do. I'll start.
Oh,
well,
He's in that box
what it did
beside
is
you.
hold on. What it did for me is it singled out all the morons out there that truly believe this bullshit that masks were doing anything. So therefore, I would never take their word into an account. Okay, anybody next?
Hey, Mark, just so you know,
What it did for me was have my grade
not
one.
only a
What it did for me is
I
save
know,
money
as
on
you know.
foundation.
True.
You get severe respiratory issues from breathing in
Mark,
filth.
here's the thing for me. Not only do I drive trucks and have my own trucking industry, trucking business and everything else, but I also fly planes. When I was in the commercial airliners, they tried doing the same thing. They said you need to wear a mask. I'm like going, well, I have a perfectly good oxygen mask. I'll wear that. They're like, no, you got to have a mask when you go on the aircraft. As soon as we get into the cockpit, we take the fucking thing off.
Oh, absolutely you would. And that's what everybody did. That's exactly what Jimmy was just talking about when you see the politicians standing off on the sidelines before going to the podium with their masks off, take 10 steps with their mask on, then take it off again.
Flight attendants did it too. They would pull the curtain. They would pull the curtain back. It's almost like it's almost like the authority figures didn't have to do it, right? They were just the people that were decreeing these crazy things upon us, these mandates, right? Like
because they had explosions.
In restaurants.
They were the authority. They were allowed. They were better people. Remember, we created two classes of people: people that wanted to go along with this thing and were absolute good little puppy dogs that followed along with the narrative, and then therefore by following along with the narrative, they started implanting their dominance on people because they were the virtuous ones, and the people that didn't want to do it. You know, like that's it. Everybody became a toy cop overnight.
My child's
At least in restaurants. At least in restaurants.
Whenever
At least
you
in
went to see my child's
restaurants,
pediatrician,
whenever we sat at tables in restaurants, it attacked nobody at all. And the effect of masks on children, it caused speech impediments, it caused social anxieties, and the list goes on.
Let's not forget bacterial infections in children.
Yeah.
And the majority of parents absolutely just went along with it. The teachers sitting there watching their kids have all sorts of symptoms, falling asleep in class, low oxygen levels, hard time paying attention. Very few spoke out and alerted parents of what was going on.
Hold on, Nikki, you're not talking about the elephant in the room.
Hold on, Belle's been trying to say something forever. Hold on, go Belle.
I was gonna say, during COVID, when we used to go, first off, I gave birth during COVID, so I was in and out of the hospital the whole time. The peak and everything in downtown Toronto, I can firsthand tell you, like there was literally nobody in emergency. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
In maternity.
No, you're right. There was nobody. You're absolutely right. But again, back to the masks.
Wait. I'm gonna get there.
Did anybody else bedazzle their masks, or was I the only one?
So hold on. I never wore one. When I was giving birth,
I didn't wear one.
The nurses would come into my room and take off their mask, and it was like, "Oh, you're not one of them." Like basically saying I wasn't crazy or scared of COVID, and they just needed to breathe, and they'd be in my room without their masks, all hanging out with me. And even my child's pediatrician, she almost lost her license because she refused to get vaccinated, and she was telling parents not to do it for the kids. And whenever she would see our name as a patient, she would walk in and rip her mask off and be like, "Oh, thank God it's normal people." She's like,
yep.
She's like, "I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit and let everybody else be late." And she just didn't talk with us because she knew.
What people don't understand is when you exhale, what are you exhaling? Like, what are you letting out of your body?
Oxygen and carbon dioxide.
We bought.
Never mind oxygen, you're letting out carbon dioxide. Okay.
We bought masks from
people,
and I made sure to ask for like a single layer, and they all looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "No, my child's gonna breathe. One single layer, please. Do not put 24 layers of masks, just one layer." And that's what my goal had was one.
Hold on a sec. I just want to say one thing. My favorite part was when I took my kids right after I gave birth to Ontario to visit my mom.
and it's in Thunder Bay. And she took me to the grocery store, and everyone's staying 6 feet apart. And they have all the essentials in the middle of Walmart, like literally fucking saran wrapped. And you couldn't buy any of that stuff. You could just buy the stuff that was on the outside. And I'm like, Mom, you guys have lost your mind here. And she's like, no, Sonia, this is how it has to be. And I'm like, so you can't just like buy this because it's in saran wrap, but I could buy this that's here. And she's like, yes, that's the rules. Like, what the fuck is this? It was insane.
No, back to my point though.
Socks.
When you're
They
wearing a
stopped
mask,
us. They stopped us from buying socks. You couldn't buy socks.
Can I ask a question after Anthony?
I couldn't buy a crib for my baby when I was pregnant.
Yeah, Nikki, go ahead.
Like, I couldn't buy anything.
So, were any of you aware, and as parents here too, that the teachers had gotten a deal through their union to get paid regardless of classroom attendance?
Yes.
I know friends that are teachers, and yep.
Okay,
I'm
so
very
we all
well
know
aware of
that
it.
to be 100% true.
They got
Great.
31 days off paid.
Yeah,
If 2016
I spoke to them myself, and they had said this and literally laughed about it. So they were all in the staff room laughing at the fact that they're getting paid regardless of classroom attendance. Do any of you feel like that's the one thing that took away any bartering chip parents had, like any teeth parents had to actually speak and voice out against this, because immediately they were slighted with, if you don't like it, keep your child home?
Well, I mean,
homeschool your children?
Teachers get salary, so either way, it doesn't matter if they have kids or not in the classroom. It's always been like that.
Oh, no, Belle, Belle.
No,
See, Belle,
no.
you're wrong. You're wrong.
No.
Hold on. You're wrong, because there's actually they do a count, I believe in September, October, for how full the class is, and that's all dependent on how much money they're going to receive as a school. So if people were actually being held back or held at home and doing homeschooling, and the class was only half full, then that would cut their funding in half. So it actually does make a big difference.
So I can tell you firsthand, no. Because in Ontario, in the Catholic schools, that when they switched over to online schooling, the school still got the funding, either whether or not there was presence in class or not, because they were updating things in the classroom. When September came along and they did the whole, her school was the thing, like one classroom was allowed in the yard per every hour. It was weird. They still got the funding. They didn't offer online, and those that did want to go online, they still got the funding because it's by area. The extra funding we're talking about.
Okay, so let me ask you a question real quick, Belle. Hold on, Marco. Let me ask Belle a question. My daughter is in Catholic school right now, and she's going to. And when she went this year, she's in grade 12. When she went back to school, all of their computers were taken out of the school because they didn't have it in the budget. All of her computers.
So
just to pay for the book. They had to sell the computers that were there. Sorry, just to pay for the books.
Do you mind telling me what area you're
Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, you're in Calgary. See, we're in Ontario.
Who's got that background, guys?
So in Ontario,
Probably May.
So how it works in Ontario is that, like, depending on what taxes are made in the area towards the school. So, for example, in where we're at, if the community. Okay, let me go back to my old area. I lived in an old, fancy, rich area. They had a lot of schools.
Oh, la-di-da.
Hey, we were the poor people. I was the poor person in that area, okay? I can't afford a $1.9 million house. We were living in a...
You better be sending galaxies with all your riches, Belle. That's all we heard here.
Oh, man, no, I wish. I'm not rich, man. We lived, it was 4 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment and then in a rich area. Like, we were poor, okay? We were the poor people in the rich. But in the area, so we were like in Leaside, right? So because everyone has they pay such high taxes, the schools were well funded. It just depends on the tax bracket in the area, right? Because the teachers do start at like $90,000 in
Leaside, yeah.
So
There's
then
a lot of
after
private
they
schools
raise
there, too.
money, like, trust me, we had some kids that the parents were CEOs of McDonald's, and they were able to raise the funds for whatever they needed. So now we moved to an area that is a lot lower. Like we moved almost 2 hours out of Toronto because that's what we could afford for a house. And the school doesn't even have a playground where I'm at. We're trying to raise money for a playground, but they do have, each kid in the classroom can have an iPad and this and that because they figured out how to save money here and get money for here. So for example, for books, they ask for donations for books so that they're not spending $8,000 on books when they can get it for free from the community. So I was like, that's actually kind of smart.
Yeah, but that's everywhere. I think that's everywhere. Funding's been cut.
That was everywhere.
Yeah.
See,
Canada-wide.
down here we had the same issue. Like the school that my two kids were at, or now my ex's kids, my two stepkids, we had the same thing. We were doing drives, we were doing fundraisers because.
But they don't do that for
there
grade
was some.
12. You noticed? They don't do that for high school.
I know. No. They did it over here. They did it over here. They did it because maybe that was just the way it was. But for the kids, for my two stepkids or my two ex-stepkids,
Mark,
we did.
Not here. Like in our high school, I went to a Catholic school in
That's
Toronto.
all. What?
And we had no funding. My books were so.
Who's that telling me?
It was my books were so old. I swear it was like the first edition from the writer. Like they were so old. Oh my god, that picture. Oh my gosh.
Oh Lord.
Well,
oh Lord.
See, this is the issue that we're having right now is that the barber and the seamstress were acting alone when they were outfitting JT with his new outfit here, his new makeover. I mean, it's absolutely insane that what people are doing.
Oh heavens, that picture's hilarious.
When somebody else made the decision, right? It's not Justin's fault.
Exactly.
I mean,
Mark, can I just address this comment really quick because this person's going to fly off the rails. They said
Just like
outside
that,
of
Mark.
basic
Come on.
education, tell me how pronouns and gender equality.
Is that you? Slip?
Yeah,
Oh my
it
god,
is me.
Flip, that's so
where was that?
That is me. Actually, I saved him.
Hey, so
I did that one day.
What comment was that?
Hold on, I'm just going to react to this comment here. Not react, but explain.
Which comment?
Conversation.
Okay. I don't want to start muting people like children, so let me just go here. Outside of basic education, tell me how pronouns and gender equality come into play. And I replied, and Alberta Catholic schools, they no longer apply. And please elaborate. So this year in Catholic Alberta schools and other provinces are pushing for the same, to use pronouns such as they, them, or refer to yourself as non-binary is just not a thing. Last year it was, but it has now been eliminated and back to regular, you're a male, female,
It
boy,
also
or girl.
against the whole Catholic Church and the belief. Like
Okay, can I?
My daughter's school, so they have that brought up, and I sent an actual email to, not email, I sent the link from the PCVB board to, you guys know Animal, right? I sent it to them about the Equality Act. And he was reading it and he was cracking up because he was like, I can't believe, like when you read it, it just talks about, has nothing to do with parents. So that was already brought up in 2021 where they were already including this. But in the Catholic board, they switched it because there was a big pushback from the communities because it doesn't follow, the whole Catholic and the Christian and Jesus's beliefs. So that's why that's gone. But they are bringing it in sexual education where in my daughter's school, parents had pushed for nurses to come in to teach that, not teachers, because the teachers are not educated enough in that area versus a nurse.
Correct.
And so that's what's happening in my daughter's school. Look, because I have the guideline books. Like when, you start in the beginning of the year, 2 days before the school starts, you get your book of everything you need to teach with all the guidelines, and then you kind of have free range of how you want to teach it. And, and that's what teachers do. Here's your guidelines. This is what you got to teach. This is what they need to know by this time. Do it however you please.
Well, I think, can you make me in the big box real quick again, SL? I just wanted to give some sexual orientation here. This is
Mark.
pre-sex ed class.
Mark, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds if you're gonna get me taken down.
No, I won't get you banana. It's okay. I just wanted to point out something that's to the obvious for people that are questioning it. As you see right here, this is squats at gym, healthy body, squats on gym, pregnancy. As long as we can decipher between the two, you'll be okay.
I'm impressed.
All right, hold on. I have to clarify something. That it says Jim, not Jimmy. So to anybody who's trying to use that for blackmail. So
Did somebody?
Mark, can you fix that typo for Jimmy, please?
Yes, I'll fix the typo for you, Dick.
I've got a question for you. There, SL. Did you get rid of Nicola Waitkamp or something?
Did I? Sorry.
Did somebody get rid of Nicola Waitkamp? Because I've just seen. I just want to touch on what Nicola just wrote down. I
did not get rid of anybody. No, I don't do that.
Okay. So she said. She said in the comments. No parents should. No parents should not have the right. We have education experts that design the curriculum. I'm going to ask one quick question of her. Do you have?
I think
kids?
she must have left. No, hold on. Yeah, go ahead and ask.
Do you have kids? Do you have children? Because if you have children and you have
she's gone.
Of course she doesn't. No, she's making an appeal to authority, right? Without understanding what she's actually asking for. So she's uneducated in this situation. And if anybody wants to know why we're cautious about these things, look up 2 words. A gentleman by the name of Benjamin Levin. Benjamin Levin. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead. And if that's the authority and if that's the person that's supposed to know better than me, then I might as well not have kids in school at all, because that is not a narrative that I will participate in. Thank you very much.
And whenever someone says the argument but he's no longer part of the school board, the curriculum is based on his ideas and basically his beliefs, and they're just adding on to what he's already done. The damage is already there. It just needs to be wiped out completely. And I know, because I think I told Aminal, I met the guy. He's creepy as AF when I started.
Yeah, that Belle, when I was in that conversation yesterday, I asked you to come up because the person was saying that's not true.
I had too much wine. And
fair.
And I was just in a different zone in my brain.
I don't know enough about that gentleman that Jimmy always talked about, but I invited him.
Creepy. So basically he was charged for having child porn.
I know the basics of it, but I wasn't comfortable enough to have that as a me stance.
My thing for me is the distribution of the child court. Who the hell did he give that to? That's what I want.
Well, but hold on, Belle. You know what would be absolutely disgusting, though? Not disgusting, but you know what will shock you is the amount of people that actually have child porn on their on their person. Or corn. Sorry. I mean, this is so stupid. It's just this verbiage.
It's painful.
But at the end of the day, if you actually looked at how many people actually have this, it is very overwhelming. It's disgusting. It's all over the fuck. It's a fucking cancer.
Yes, it is.
Is what it is.
And the thing is, I really don't understand why people are praising this guy, and now because he's out of jail, they're he's great, he's this. I'm no, he's not. He's a disgusting human being. I mean, if this was in the olden days, he'd be castrated.
Well, look, Belle, the thing is for me, when it comes to that kind of behavior, I can tell you right now that the behavior that is being allowed on certain social platforms, and to a certain degree, even this one, social media platforms, it scares me. When I do have kids of my own, not as a step parent, but as a parent, I'm going to be worried. I'm going to be scared for my kids because they're having to grow up in a world that condones that kind of behavior. I'm sorry, I can't condone that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
can I respond to that comment?
That's true.
Well, I mean, as a step parent, you should care as well. It's not just your biological
I would just
children.
say,
As a whole.
For your future children, just get them to raise them to have good morals and learn what's right and wrong, and also to approach you. Have that open thing where they can approach you and not be afraid to talk to you about things. Because I mean, I try to do that with my kid. Oh shit, she's pretty terrified of me when she's in trouble, which is great because then she knows not to do it again. But then if she wants to talk to me, she knows she can talk to me. So that's my best thing, be open and just
You want to be,
chat.
essentially you want to be a parent first and then a friend second. I've got to go, guys. I've got a phone call. I've got to take this.
I'm a parent.
I'll talk to you guys
My dad will say, I hate you. I'm like, okay,
Bye.
good. I accomplished my job.
Yeah, just to pick up on what Marco was saying, I don't want my kids' teachers to be their friends. Like, I don't want them to feel like they can. I want to be my kids' teacher's friend, but just like as a parent, I'm not my kid's friend. I'm a parent. I don't need an adult keeping secrets from me for my children. That is
Anybody who
definitely
keeps secrets.
yeah, that's definite predatorial behavior. If you're advocating for this, you should have your search history checked and your browser history checked. These are things that we all know. You want to say protect the kids, right? Like it's a one-sided argument with a bunch of heretics and wild people following a narrative on the other side that are putting children at risk, not the parents. I hear people come on this app all the time and say silly things like children are safer at school than they are at home.
They are not.
I was just going to say that Jimmy and I touch on this all the time, and it's the fact of the matter is that other people, no matter how good of a parent you are doubting your parenting, and other people are trying to dictate how you should parent, and other people are creating a narrative that you are throwing on your children, assuming that parents are the enemy, and that shit has got to go.
Well, after COVID, I lay reservations on that, and the fact that there's many of court trials going on right now. Justice Dunlop for one, Justice Barbara Romaine, second one, that have literally deemed a lot of the orders that come out of Henshaw and our health authority, the ones that are also pushing a lot of this sexual orientation into our education. They weren't experts in anything. They literally went out on a whim, kept parents out of the loop, and a lot of parents went along with it. They didn't bite back at all. And that really shocked me. So the fact that this has gotten to the extent that it has, where we're actually bringing Soji into the classroom, and for me, it was as young as grade 4, where they just wrote transgender on the board, no backup behind it, nothing, and leave the onus on the parents and the child to mingle with their friends and figure that out. I don't see how that can be told to me that it was taught in such a way that was professional, let alone had any integrity behind it.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Is anyone from Saskatchewan here?
I am.
Okay, so this was half my talk in regards to this yesterday. Who is it? What's his name? He's siding with the parents now. Finally, there's two.
Well, just like all politicians, they like to keep their jobs. They like to keep in power. They like to be elected, right? And when the power of the people speak, and Scott Moe is aware of the narrative that's going on in Saskatchewan right now, and he wants to keep his job because he knows if he doesn't, he's got Mark Friesen biting at his heels with the Buffalo Party. So he's been forced to do it. And this judge that's come in and tried to subvert democracy based on some sort of woke agenda absolutely should have Section 33, the notwithstanding clause, pulled on him because he's making an emotional response to what the people want. You can't tell the government of the government de jure that the decisions that they make based on the people that voted them in are wrong. And for a judge to try to do that, he should be disbarred, possibly charged, or maybe thrown in jail.
Well, what he was trying to do is disgusting. But do you not think that Scott Moe is genuine?
I absolutely think
that's what I was
Scott
going to
Moe
ask,
is a disingenuous swamp rat who literally said to us that he was losing patience when we weren't bringing our vaccination numbers up to par. And not only that, in our education system, we're closing down more schools than we are opening them. And the mayor of Carrot took a great big payment to have a big school built, and meanwhile they shut down 3 other schools that were in local communities and now want to bus them for over an hour to get to this location, and then shortly thereafter resigned. I just see a lot of backroom deals, and parents aren't involved. A lot of parents spoke up and tried to stop the school closures going on, but they had already collected.
So what I read yesterday is that he's now sided with the parents, though.
and he's going against.
He's
So
a
what Jimmy's
flipper
saying
dipper.
basically is he just wants to flip around and get his job saved.
He's like a dead fish. Yeah, he definitely starts moving come election time. This weird fish just comes back to life, but we haven't heard anything from his mouth since he got elected.
Okay.
He's a
This is what I
brat.
wanted to know. This was like my topic of last night, but no one came in that was from Saskatchewan. So, and that's like one place that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So he's a fucker. Everything that I know is basically just disingenuous.
Not only that, but if you delve into his history, he's got quite the past. Yeah, look it up. It's crazy.
He's for his career, not for the parents.
He is 100% a swamp rat, as far as I can see.
Wow, I'm gonna have to research him more. That's disappointing. I was pretty stoked when I read that he was siding with the parents, because I know what like Alberta has as far as the Catholic school. I'm not to the public school, but that's disappointing.
Yeah, the education board here completely went bonker with a lot of this stuff. And like I said, it was grade 4 before COVID that they were putting transgender up on the board, not letting parents know anything about it. The only reason why I was privy to it is because I actually, when my child walks in the door, I don't just say, "Hey, honey, how's your day?" We sit down, pull everything out, and actually see what's going on. And she was having inclusivity day. And I was like, "Oh, sounds good. What went on there?" And pulled out the paper and everything and let her have a little chat. And then she's like, tells me that they just wrote transgender up on the board and didn't give any details behind it. No definition, no context, no nothing. Just leave the onus on the parents and the child to figure it out. And
do you know how much that pisses me off, Nikki? Because we're up here as Canadians and we say these things, and people tell us that we're lying, and I get irate
I'm
about
not
it. Like,
fucking lying, and I called the school, and not under the guise that I don't like any of that. Like, people be people and do your thing, but when they're being disingenuous about it and just putting this in our kids' face and leaving it to the parents to kind of figure out if it's happening or not, it's really it's disgusting to me. It really pisses me off. Apart from the Soji thing, like whatever, I don't even want to get into that. It's the fact that these school boards are alienating and demonizing parents and vice versa. Everyone's putting the blame on the teachers. The teachers get given a set of books and they're told to stick to that subject. They don't have any say either.
It's true.
And that's where it's really starting to get a lot of infighting, where we're going back and forth with teachers and everything, and we're not even looking at people like Scott Moe that have already sealed their paycheck for the rest of their life. They don't care.
Well, you guys know Manimal, right? Like, Manimal hosted live before me, and his daughter came home from school, and his daughter had a substitute teacher for music class, and the teacher identified as they them. And I can't remember what they're calling it, a Z. They want to be called Z or ZA or something like that. And because the kids didn't know what it meant, she derailed the entire hour lesson away from the instruments and told them all about that ideology. And that's not fucking okay. That's that. Yes.
Do you want to know what I think the solution should be for a lot of this? Because, okay, so hear me out. So a lot of people, when you tell them this shit happens, they're like, "No, you're lying. That's not true." I'm like, "No, it's true. Like, I've heard it. I've seen it. I worked in education. I worked in daycare and in the school boards." My thing for me is, instead of the money to Ukraine, let's put the money into the schools and put cameras in the classroom. Because then parents can log in and actually see and hear what's being taught. And then if they're not being taught what's proper, then there can be actual repercussions versus he, she,
Thank you.
all the fairy tale creatures say that is what we need.
I've been saying that for a long time. When I bring it up, I get a lot of opposition. They're like, "No, it's not." Listen, you guys are in charge of my most precious things in the world. I should be able to log in through Zoom and watch what you're fucking teaching them, whatever I want.
This is my new
background. Yep, I worked in a private daycare.
But I would like to put focus on, they're given a set from the board and they're just given, and they have to stick to that. So if we're blaming the teacher or think that putting a camcorder in the classroom is going to benefit us, I'm sorry, it's really not. Like, the only reason why I know what happened is because my child came home and actually was able to verbalize what happened. So
Nikki,
that dialogue with her child is super important. That dialogue with the higher ups is even more important, and they've completely shut us out.
Hold on a second.
Example.
Last year, grade
Nikki,
2, 7 years
I
old.
love
My
you,
son
by the
learned non-binary in a Catholic school. Like, that's fucking crazy to me.
So it's pretty crazy too.
Nikki, I love you. I've been following all your lives everywhere I pop in. You're there. Jimmy, you're there too. Mr. FU, Anthony,
I love you
don't
too,
know who the hell you
Vampire.
are, but nice to meet you.
Anytime I see you, I pop into it.
So I want to say something. For anyone that's saying, minors, you can't have cameras because of minors. Well, that's BS, because I worked at a private daycare in Toronto that had cameras. And I'm going to tell you firsthand on multiple occasions where those cameras saved the effing child's life. Because I remember one day, and I can't tell you her name. Well, actually, I can now because it's been a few years. Charlotte. She was in my infant room, and I was just doing this job because I was finishing something up in school to get more papers, more qualifications.
Girl, are you running a hill or what?
I remember. Oh yeah, I'm bending down, picking up crap that the dog chewed up.
Just teasing you. Sorry.
No, my lungs don't work. Anyways, so I remember I was off. I came back the next day, and my coworker Sue was opening. She's a closing staff, but today she was opening, and she's like, "Oh, Anna, did you hear what happened to poor Charlotte?" I'm like, "Well, I just got here. What the hell happened to Charlotte?" She's like, "Oh, her face is all bruised and red. She fell at nap time." I'm like, all the alarms are ringing. I swear China can hear my alarms ringing, going, "Wait a minute. The bed is an inch off the ground. How the hell does she have a bruise on her face? Like, there's no freaking way." So then I go downstairs to the office, and I said, my coworker, my supervisor, Patrina, was there. One of my closest friends was there too, Dee. And I said, "Hey, listen, like I heard about something that just happened. Like, something is off. Something is telling me is wrong." So I went and I did her supervisor job. I got some side eyes for that. And my other supervisor, Sandy, who was in the classroom, was like, "What the hell are you doing that? Like, you're nothing special." And then I kind of like adjusted with my hands, like, "I'll explain." And so all of a sudden, Sandy gets called down. I'm escorting the parents out. We're acting like nothing's happening. I go downstairs. I see Patrina bawling her eyes out. Sorry, I meant to turn on the camera. I see Patrina bawling her eyes out. I look over and I see this grown-ass adult body slamming a child onto the floor on her cot. And I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell did I just open up?" So then the police was called. She was escorted. The parents could not know that it was me. Like, it was all confidential. She was moved to another daycare. And then I had to go through the court procedures explaining why this and that. And it was because we had the camera, was able to go back and see, and you can hear what was happening during sleep time. And once the parents, they knew it was me, because I always tell them, my job is to protect your child first. Your child is my child when we're here, and I'm going to love and care that child as if it's my own. And that's what I do until they leave. Even when they're in like grade 1 and 2 and they're in my daughter's school, I still do that till this day when I see them. And
that's fucked up. I would have sued. I would have raged. Like, that's not okay.
Well, you can't sue. You can't. Okay, so under the college of VCE, you can sue the educator directly because you are not
body slamming a child.
You're not protected under the college of VCE. You can sue the daycare, but the daycare is like worth millions. So they followed procedure once it was brought up. If you go and you sue this person who is making $18 an hour, she went to jail for child abuse. She got her license removed. She's no longer to be around children or work with children. Her child got taken away because of this. And there's been many times where I've been put in this damn situation where I had this one coworker who hated my guts. Her and I used to be like buddies, but then, I don't know, she got a pickle up her ass and she became whatever. And she got thrown in my classroom. And I remember like the Friday we had a conversation, because clearly you guys can tell I'm not the greatest with words. I stumble, I get my words confused. I'm not very good at speaking. and she was saying how I was using words and speaking to her, and I was like, girl, I don't even know what word you're saying. Can you like translate it to dumb English? Because let's break it down. I don't know what you just said.
Layman's terms, honey.
Only like I'm 5.
Huh? Like she was like book smart, but no common sense. The girl got no common sense. So then Monday I come into work. I was the 7:45 shift. She opened and I see all the kids and I went and I looked at the communication book and I read it and I was like, okay, nothing interesting here happened. I go over, I look at the snack, I kiss all my kids and say hello. And then I noticed that Arlen was breaking out in rashes. And I walk over and I see he had a substitute. And then I see that the substitute wasn't even open. And I was like, oh shit. So I asked her, oh, did he have the substitute? And she's like, yeah, he did. So I was like, okay, no big deal. So then I was putting sunscreen on him and I knew his head to toe covered in rashes. Nothing was brought into the communication book. I looked again after she went outside. His snack was sealed. I was like, holy Jesus Christ. I started crying my eyes out. My supervisor Raquel comes in and my coworker Amy, and they see me crying and they're like, what is going
This
on?
sounds like a fucking hot mess all around.
Right? I'm crying my eyes out. She comes in and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to get the girl in trouble, Yoli. Like, you know, I know we have history, but the boy, he's broken out in rashes. His snack, he had an alternate snack. It was not open. Look at the packaging. She said she gave it to him. There's nothing, because in the communication book, if a parent brings up like, oh, my kid was dropped off with a rash, they have to sign it so that we know that we're aware and the parents are aware.
Of course, yes, it has to be.
No, this is when they're dropped off in the morning. So like say I bring my kid in, I'm like, hey, listen, my kid has a giant scratch on the back. You write, Jimmy has scratch on back, and then the parent will initial and sign on the side so that you know that it wasn't added on after. So then they go downstairs. She gets called to the office. She was like, yes, I fed him the right food, blah, blah, blah. So they check the cameras and see that she didn't.
This is exactly why I left my job. This is why I left my job, because you can't trust anybody with your fucking kids. And this is the sad world that we live in. And it's happening in every single fucking provider, daycare system, all over the fucking place.
And on top of that, it's getting even worse because parents that have brought up any concerns in the last 5 years are getting completely segregated. Like, it's to the point now where I don't get a phone call for mine at all. They do not want to have any contact with me.
Oh, I'm up that fucking ass.
And if you guys go look up Bright Path Kids, I think it was like somewhere in Barrie or somewhere, there was another incident, but this one ended up in the media where a parent saw a child care, I think it was in a preschool room, where this is like in 2000, I think 21, after I gave birth, and I was like, fuck it, I ain't going back to work. She like kneed the kid in the back and stepped on his hand or something, and it was caught on camera, and there was a whole case open, and this one was publicized. I'm just like, this shit happens, and we need cameras. We need cameras, and the only time you cannot have a camera present is in the bathroom. That is it.
That's a really good idea. I'm going to push that, and you watch who's going to get it pushed first. It's going to be me. Write it down. I promise you. My school is going to have the fucking...
Listen, Sonia, here's the thing. Every time I bring this up, they talk about minor safety. I'm like, I'm not saying to broadcast this on the internet. I'm saying every parent gets a login to their child's classroom. And at any given point, they're like, well, then the teachers can't teach properly. Well, what are they teaching my kids that they don't want me to see?
If you're a good teacher, you don't need to worry about
the more pushback I get on this shit is just fucking wild.
Well, now you have to
you
sign
can
a
get the
consent
funding
form.
for the $1 billion they cut from the military, right?
Well, exactly. But like slip and
I bet you if we started promoting this, the parents would fund it themselves. Oh, you can't find the money? No problem. We got that money for you. I guarantee it.
So I think that I've shared this story a million times, but like my school lost my kid in the winter for 2 hours and didn't call us. He's 5. So like I got my fucking knee, my whole actual both legs up the asshole of the board here because I could have sued their pants off. And basically, I've pushed a lot of things that go my way, and I'm definitely going to propose this and see, and I guarantee you they're going to be on board with it, because why would you not? It covers your ass as well as an educator, right? But now, in regards to this, we have to sign a consent form. Hold on. We have to sign a consent form at the beginning of the year to allow the school to post photos
on Twitter of our kids. So why can you post pictures of the children on Twitter, but you can't have a camera in the classroom? Would be my question.
Yeah, that's not right.
Listen, like
don't make excuses for days for it. Children's safety. The teachers aren't able to properly teach them. They're under too much stress already. Blah blah blah. We don't have the money. They should be investing this money in something else.
Teachers are not even
That's a great idea.
teaching kids, and it's pathetic. And they don't want you to see that.
True.
Like I have a friend, his wife is a teacher, and she flat out says, she's like, I'm not even teaching these kids. Like, these kids are learning absolutely fucking nothing.
I'm right impressed with my teacher this year, though. I can't complain. She's nailing it so far.
All I gotta say, and I'm gonna say it again over and over again, if you're a good teacher and you know what you're doing and you have nothing to hide, you should not be afraid of teaching. Learn where the freaking areas are where you can pick your wedgie where the camera won't catch it, and you're good. Like, you're good. That's what we did. We learned the blind spots. Okay, I can pick my wedgie there, there, and there. Good to know. Like, just you don't have to worry.
They want to say that it's not in the curriculum, right? So when you bring up these concerns that parents have, they want to say things like, well, that's not in the curriculum. Have you read the curriculum? It hasn't changed since 1998. Blah, 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 all this bullshit. Okay, well, fine. If they're not doing that because it's not in the curriculum, then put the fucking camera in the classroom and we'll all shut the fuck up. It's pretty straight fucking forward.
And the curriculum is a guideline. They don't give you the details.
I want to say
the
this because the
curriculum
surprise
absolutely changed, and you only have to look at the textbook and see the date and see Trudeau's little name on there to see that it completely changed.
But
Just saying, they're not the same textbooks we had.
Hold on a second. In regards to asking about policies and procedures in regards to children identifying as the opposite and etc., the teachers are not allowed to have that conversation with you. And they're not disclosing it in the curriculum. What you have to do is call your school, talk to the principal or your board. They're the only two people that are allowed to have these conversations with you, which is fucked in its own self. It's crazy. And if you don't know that information, then you don't know that information. I learned it last year, and I learned it again this year when my grade 3 teacher called to say hi. I asked her what the updated policies and procedures in regards to my son identifying as the opposite, and the teacher was like, I'm like, do I need to call the principal? And she's like, yes, you do. I can't have these conversations with you. And we have had countless teachers up here from different provinces who say the exact same thing, and they get uncomfortable, and it's fucking crazy to me.
Teachers have no say. They just are told what to do, but
they're not even allowed to communicate with you. They're not allowed.
No, it's true. You're absolutely right. Teachers have, the thing that people don't understand.
Like our doctors.
Teachers have free will of whatever nilly they want to teach the class and how they want to teach it. So as long as they're following their guidelines in the book that they get in the beginning of the year, they're not going to get reprimanded. Now, if they're getting off topic, then that's a problem.
I don't think that's true, and I just have my own anecdotal experience, of course, but we have a teacher that 3 separate times had inappropriate, disgusting, suspended for a year and is back teaching again. So unions protect teachers.
If it was a free market, this teacher would have been fired.
You're letting me what? Sorry?
If you're going to start mouthing off and saying I'm lying, I'm going to drop you. So
what? I never said to anybody that.
Well, you're in the comments and you're always up here challenging me, so I'm giving you a chance.
What did I say? Okay, I have a question, but don't get mad, okay?
As long as it's a question.
I'm not asking you, but don't get mad at me. Okay, now, isn't it like the most important thing for our kids is to be safe in school? As long as they're safe inside, then that's all that matters. Why are people so into the curriculum?
Because the children are not safe in school.
Can we get an age check here?
Safety is one important thing. It's not the only important thing.
You can exactly. Rena's always here.
Like I was in a public school in first grade, and I grew up with a lot people from different backgrounds, and it was so diverse. I grew up with Jewish, Christians, Muslims.
Cool story. I grew up in Scarborough. Me too. What's the point?
Yeah, because you just don't want
you really focus on this stuff. Like, if you want to teach them something, you teach them. School starts at home,
which is
So
absolutely true.
The money that parents would use to do that is being stolen from them through taxation.
that's because that's public school.
Yeah.
School
Yes.
should be
And Catholic.
Sonia, I'm not sure
Rita,
how old this person is.
What's your birthday?
Thank
What's your
you.
birthday, Rita?
Yes, what?
What's your birthday?
July 26.
What year?
What year?
1996.
Yeah, you're too young.
Too young?
No.
I mean,
No, 1996 is fine.
She's not,
30.
she's not too young for
Almost
live,
30.
no.
You're
No,
not
she's
almost
your old
30.
friend.
You're like,
I understand what she's trying to say, but no, school is wrong. It's kids are not being taught properly at all.
yeah. I would say that that's because it's not a free market.
It's not I forget who brought up the unions, and I hate unions for that very reason, because unions protect people and when they shouldn't be protected.
Yes, it's crazy to me how these leftists will complain about police unions, but then not about teachers unions.
Why did you write kindergarten? How come only? Why?
Doesn't matter what union it is. Every single union is wrong. I'm sorry.
Yes, including the American Medical Association, even though I don't think it's technically a union, it operates as one. I'm in the US,
union.
by the way.
It's still a union.
Yeah, it's basically, it's a bunch of people in the field who are already employed in the field, and of course they're going to protect their interests and limit competition by lobbying the government, which is what they do.
I think last year the Ontario Union, I think they made, I want to say it was like 10, I think it was like $2.8 billion. The CEO, that one weird guy, made, I think it was $100,000.
Brett Hahn.
Yeah, him. And he got he has a $80,000 transportation budget. I'm like, why the hell do you need that? Take the damn TTC. And then he had I think he had $70,000 in bonuses. I'm like, that money could have gone back to the schools. The thing is, we pay the taxes. That money goes to the teachers first, and whatever's left over, then will get allocated to whatever the children need, and that's why the schools have no funding. It's
so the money's being misused.
Misallocated.
Everywhere. Yeah.
So, Rena, I have a question for you. You came up here and you talked about going to school and diversity and all that. Which really didn't have a lot to do with this conversation. So, when we're talking about sexual identities being taught to children in school, especially at a very young age,
Did you write pre-K?
Just let me. Whoa! You're not going to cut me off. You're going to let me finish my question. Can you explain to me why we need to be teaching children gender identities, sexual identities in schools, especially at a young age when we can just teach them blanket acceptance, whereas you accept people for who they are, no matter their skin color, orientation, or belief system, instead of focusing on sexualizing and
you don't even
all the other stuff that comes with it. So can you explain to me why blanket acceptance wouldn't be taught to judge people based on their merit and character?
I have my hand up for something. I just want to add on really, really quickly. Just wait. Let me add on to that. Children are 4 years behind reading and writing. Why is sexual identity more important?
Exactly.
No, it's not identity. It's just, just to learn about people.
Do you know what SOGI stands for?
Learn about what?
Okay, one at a time, you guys. I don't need to start muting.
SOGI stands for. Rena, what does SOGI stand for? SOGI.
SOGI?
What does it stand for? Yeah, it's an acronym. Do you know what the words are that it stands for?
No.
Sexual orientation and gender identity.
Oh, but
ideology, but yes, identity.
Yeah.
So when you say something like it has nothing to do with identity, it's identity politics, and I would go as far to say as ideologies, right?
It's because
Bringing
they know.
ideologies into the classroom and putting it on children, vulnerable and are unaware and don't know what it is they're even being taught, and they're leaving the onus to the parents and the child to figure it out. That's where we're running into a problem. Whereas if we just taught inclusivity, rights, and your anatomy, we wouldn't have a problem here.
They're not gonna say it to people like this. They're gonna say, they're gonna like teach them normal stuff, but to just teach them like acceptance.
Yeah. I think you're really young, and I don't know if you're up on the conversation.
They're taking it upon themselves to do it because they know the things that they're teaching the kids are pervasive. They know the things that they're teaching them are unnatural. They know the things that they're teaching them are against the parents' better will. They know the things that they're teaching them are fringe ideologies brought forth by fucking creepy pedophilic Marxists. That's what the fuck it is. And they know we're not going to fucking tell them anything about this shit. Because all it does is put you down a pathway of being a lifetime medical patient, right? That big pharma makes money off of, and it stifles your ability not only to climax, but it'll stop you from having children, which goes along with the depopulation regimen as well. Parents are wise to this stuff. This is why they're trying to use all this secrecy.
Rena, do you know who John Money is? I'd like you to go and do your research on John Money and Soti.
Slip, were you trying to say something? Somebody's trying to say something
No,
that's
you
really
told me
quiet.
I like to listen to audios instead of reading.
I was trying to say, I just wanted to make a statement. You have the same answer as everybody I've ever posed that question to.
But
you guys don't have one because you know I'm factually correct. Biology has 3 different things to it. It has a male, it has a female, and it has a hermaphrodite. These are things that we learn in school. You cannot twist those things just to suit your personal needs. Now, we can have blanket acceptance. I have taught my children blanket acceptance. They have friends that are in the LGBTQ community. They accept them because they are good people, not based on their ideologies. And this is what the world needs to get back to.
So
you're a very good.
I wanted to. That kind of goes to what I was going to bring up, which is like, I don't. So when you say blanket acceptance, what do you mean?
You accept people based on their character and their merit, not their skin color, orientation, or belief system.
Okay, exactly. And I would. Well, I don't know about belief system. I think there are some belief systems that are much worse than others. Right.
Yeah, I'm talking religion. You can twist belief system into whatever you want. I'm talking religion.
Hey, when I was in first grade,
let's say religion. Like, I would argue, like, there are some religions that have bad tenets, right?
There are bad tenets in every facet of life.
What's tenets?
Okay, so I mean, I guess I would just say, like, I mean, I don't have any kids, so I want to start with that by saying I'm humble. I don't know what it's going to be like when I have kids, but I would teach my kids, I would hope, at this point in time, I would hope that I would teach my kids, like, start with civility when you're interacting with people, separate the person from the idea, right? You don't have to accept all ideas, obviously. But I would say, like, be respectful to people, but
based on their merit and their character.
If a parent thinks, like, let's say that a parent, I'm trying to come up with an example. Like, let's say there's a religious parent, and they think that they don't want their kid being around certain kids. Like, maybe they don't want their kid being around gay kids, right? I personally would not be that parent.
There's no such thing.
Hold on, but I don't think it's my right to say that parent has to have their kids be exposed to that.
Again, nobody's arguing that.
Okay.
The point is moot.
Okay, so then you would be I think I would say, like, if I vote for a system that steals money from that parent and puts it towards schools that that have kids around other gay kids, then that would be like a form of that.
What does that have to do with my child accepting other children?
No. I think, but you didn't say your child. I don't think you said, like, we and our and, like, the world needs to get back to. So
no, he said he taught his child to accept people based off their character.
Okay, so then, I mean, yeah, if you agree that like we shouldn't
Not
be forcing
based off their
So like on
race,
Valentine's Day, they can't trade.
So let me put this the easiest way I can. I am not a religious person. We don't have religion in my household, right? So, but I'm not going to persecute or criticize somebody for their religion. That's their choice, not mine.
Okay, cool.
We have religion in my house. And you know what I teach my child? Love and accept everyone like Jesus did.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we're not gonna be up here like saying that like gay people don't have a right to be included in anything like that.
People do not
And
have
that's
a right
what
to
I'm
be
getting so
included in my
frustrated
house.
about, because this
Like-
whole entire issue is the fact that parents aren't being involved in the program, right?
Hold on,
It's
Nikki,
a
1 second.
program.
I just want to ask
And when
this.
they're
Hi,
trying to
you don't
program
think
our
that you should
children, I think parents have a right without being besmirched by all of these other things going on. Like, those things don't matter. They're individual rights, and I absolutely stand firm on that. What we should, like Rob said, is basing it on merit, character, and not assassinating people for their character and their merit on here. Like, we're parents. Are you a parent, Psyop?
So I'm not a parent, like I said, but
See, and I don't like that.
I don't have the right.
Hold on, I'm talking. You're coming up here. No, I'm talking. You're coming up here and you're saying that you don't want your kids that you don't have to be taught about gay and lesbian people, correct?
No, you weren't listening to what I was saying, if that's what you think.
That's what I heard too. Mind clarifying?
Sure, I said a parent, not me. I'm not a parent. I'm also not religious. A parent who was religious, who doesn't want their kid going to school with gay kids, should not be forced to pay for a school in which that happens.
Yeah, that's gross, though. I don't like that.
Gross.
Okay,
I don't
fine.
like that
I
either.
don't
They
think
should
that-
be forced to go and pay for a private school that costs way more than public school because they want their child to learn differently.
No, I don't think that anyone has the right to anybody else's resources.
Do I believe that being somebody who is part of LGBTQ, do I believe that it should be taught in schools? No, I don't. I don't think sex stuff should be taught in grade schools at all.
The funny
But
thing
you have to realize that you can't just, if you put your kid in a public school, you can't just dictate every little thing that's going to go on, right?
Okay.
If you want private education, you have to pay for private education.
So the thing people don't understand is that, like, lesbian, gay, bi, some of the alphabet crew was already taught in school, the basics. But it wasn't the sexual orientation, the her, he's, these. I can't even keep up with it anymore. The fairy tale creatures, I saw like a whole thing about that. It was funny. That is the thing parents are, the soji. Because I know when I was in school and in grade 7 and 8, we learned about, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans. We learned that. But we didn't have to go in extreme details. Now in high school, there was classes for extreme details, and that was in a Catholic school. It was, it was there. Now what the problem is the extra details that are being put in that shouldn't need to be put in. The sprinkles. You don't need those. I think that makes sense.
Like, there's certain things, like, and it's like, you have kids that are also in public school who've been traumatized, right? So, there was a book brought home to one of my family members, and she was in grade 8, and she brought it home, and it was a book graphically detailing a father sexually assaulting his daughter repeatedly, and how the daughter didn't know if the daughter was supposed to like it or not. Why is that in a fucking school?
Got mail.
Soji.
Right? Like, why does that need to be in school? And then people can't be like, oh, it never happened. I literally read the book. It was brought home. She had to read 3 chapters from it. And it was all about a father sexually assaulting the child and the child not knowing if they were supposed to like it or not.
That is why we need cameras. And that is why we used to get a book list of all the books you would have to read in the beginning of the year for the whole year. What happened to that? But instead...
Hold on, Belle. Curly just got here. Let's let Curly say something.
So who stands where on what?
We are basically fighting the right that parents have the right to what is taught at school.
I stand here on my
in school
soapbox.
to our kids.
Well, so everybody agrees.
No, I don't know. I don't know if that really describes my position.
Well, the funny thing is if you actually look at it, it says should parents have the right. The funny thing is if you're not a parent, you should not have no say. I'm sorry. The parents should have the say. That's my objective. And anybody that doesn't have kids, they have no say. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to hear from Curly.
Okay. So what is your stance then? If you don't agree with the rest of the panel, what's your stance?
My stance is that humans have the right to not have their roots. So my stance is that people have the right to not have their resources stolen from them, and I think that taxation is stealing.
Okay, so
that would apply for public schools. So that would apply for public schools. It should be a free market.
Okay, so what does that have to do with the topic?
Nothing. It's a completely different topic altogether.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your...
I guess you could say that it's a different topic. I'm saying that education should not be controlled by the state.
Okay. I mean, I agree with that.
Seems
but
relevant
so what is your stance on the topic?
Should parents... I don't think that... So, do parents have the right to control education K through 10? I think through voluntary exchanges of resources, sure. But, like, through policy in the state, no.
Okay.
What? So
I'm going to ask a lot more directly. Do you think that sexual orientation should be taught in school?
Do I think it should be taught in school? I don't understand your question. Like, what do you mean?
Really?
How does that
Okay,
translate to an
so hold
answer?
on. Okay, so do you think sexual orientation should be taught in school?
That's such a broad... I think there should be...
It's not a broad question. It's literally not. When I say sexual orientation, hold on. When I say sexual orientation, I mean heterosexuality, homosexuality. I mean sexual orientation inclusive in that term. Do you think that it should be taught in school?
So,
do you think that it should be included in sexual health? It's a very simple yes or no question, and we'll go from there.
Because not all schools should be the same, I don't think.
Okay, so do you think it should be taught in public school? Like, I just want an answer.
I don't know how I can say this any clearer.
This is a complete derailment of the conversation and a waste of fucking time.
So the thing is that if you're going to ask anybody a question, you should be asking them if they have kids first. And if they say no, they don't have kids, then they shouldn't even be involved in this topic.
People that should have a say. But Curly, his stance basically is he doesn't want anybody being taught about homosexuality. I think
that's a lie. You're lying about me. I don't appreciate that.
Well, here's that it should be done in schools that he pays for if he doesn't believe that his child should be learning it.
I didn't.
That's not it either.
First of all,
so here's his whole problem. Here's his whole problem. His problem is that he doesn't have children, he pays property tax, and his money goes to the schools, and he doesn't think it should. Again, it's a derailment of conversation. He's not talking about anything we're talking about.
Exactly.
Let him say his stance.
Thank you, Rob.
So
clear it up.
I was talking about a hypothetical religious parent. I'm not religious. I would not mind. I mean, I probably would, when I have kids, I probably will either send them to a private school, homeschool them. Will I teach them about...
okay, we can get into all the nuances later. We can get into the nuances later. But I really just want an answer to my question first, right? Because you still haven't answered it. Do you think sexual orientation, right? Like, I don't want to go anywhere else until you answer this question. Okay. So do you think sexual orientation should be taught in school?
If I answer,
he's not going to be able to answer it.
That's like too broad of a question, though, because it's not. But it's not black and white. Yeah, my objection is that it's not black and white.
It's an easy question, and I'm a parent, and I say no, it shouldn't be taught in school.
Okay,
that's it. It's that easy.
So when should it, and when should it not? How about that?
Grade eight, because it's taught in grade 8, so that they're going into college or in a high school, so they know what high school is coming. What's bringing in high school?
I understand your stance, and I'm really not trying to be rude, but I really want to understand his stance.
Like, okay, I think personally, we're talking about where I would send my kid. I would say like probably I would prefer that stuff not to be taught in school, and I'll just talk to my kids about it, and they can learn about it on their own too if they want.
Okay. So no one disagrees. So like, I'm just going to wait till somebody disagrees to have the conversation.
Okay, so it would be basically.
I totally underestimated you when I sent you balloons. I'm sorry. I thought you were coming in as to team up with, and I'm sorry. I like you, and I'm giving you a follow. You're very direct and beautiful.
Thank you. What is it, Bellew?
It would be the same difference if you were to have a Christian family come in and say, you know, okay, well, Christianity has been along and we've all agreed with it for all these years. And so that's a sin and your parents are sinners. And I mean, nobody wants that to come into the school and that to be what's portrayed. Then why the hell do you have the right to come into our schools and tell our kids that that's I mean, I understand that we all agree that, it is aggravating because that's the same difference.
Do you want to know the excuse they come up with that I've heard?
Do you have kids?
One excuse is they're born with this orientation, and we're not born as Christians. That's one of their excuses.
So, Curly, a lot of us were sharing our actual experiences as what has happened to us and how it's really frustrating. People on here, especially in the comments, that will not come up and say anything with their chest out, just like disregard parents and their fucking stories and what is actually happening. And I'm going to apologize to you, Sisop, because I swear when I was walking away for a second that you were going on about how you do not want homosexuality to be anywhere near your family or your child. Maybe I was wrong. And I said I don't agree with that, and I think that's gross because it is gross.
I appreciate that. I also do have to go right now, but
yeah, all good.
You guys take care.
Take care. Yeah, thanks.
I have dealt with it.
Very weird.
Sorry. I swear he said that though.
It's fun. It's funny how a bunch of these people they come on. It's funny how a bunch of these people they come on and they spew their nonsense and they're not even fucking parents. Like that part of my language. I gotta watch my wording because I don't want to get kicked again, SL. But it's sad. It's sad. So the thing is all these people, they're sitting there and they're talking all this nonsense and they don't even have kids. They don't understand the actual meaning of being a parent. You know, they don't know the struggles that parents actually have to go through to be a parent. You know what I mean? To have your kid come home and tell you that they're completely different than what they actually are. You know how much toll that takes on a parent? A parent's got to be very, very strong to be able to accept that child for what that child wants to be. You know what I mean? So anybody that's out there spewing all their nonsense, kids should be kids should be kids. Well, parents should be able to train their kids and teach their kids more about respecting one another. You know what I mean? And the life lessons that we need to start teaching our kids is survival. We need to teach them about our living expenses. We need to teach them about our politics and how corrupted they are. Why do we got to teach them about their sexual orientation before they even know anything about sexual orientation? Like their minds don't fully come capable until like the age of 10, you know what I mean? When they actually start figuring out what life is actually about, and you literally don't change your life until you hit 24. Like 24 is when everybody wakes up and he goes, oh, okay, now I got to actually start putting my life on path, taking that right path down there to make sure my future is good for me and my children, So I don't get where people are coming out here. They don't have kids. I don't even know how anybody lets them have a voice on this topic, because if you don't have kids, you shouldn't have a voice.
Right. So that's, I think that's a pretty unfair.
I don't think you have to be in a parent
to be honest with you. I don't think
also,
to say
even if you're not a parent though, he was bringing. Oh, sorry, Curly. Go ahead. I thought you.
No, it's okay. I think that's a pretty unfair viewpoint. And if you took that stance on a lot of things, I think that's a line that you really wouldn't want to cross. Right.
Well,
And
I'm not transgender, so I don't speak in the transgender path, right? So
can I for a moment? We have comments constantly come in saying if we're not LGBTQ plus, that we can't be speaking on that. So why is it that community that doesn't always have children, like we have a lot that don't have children? I'm not saying all, because yes, they're families, and I absolutely accept their children coming to public school and want them treated just as equally and fairly as my child. But why is it that shoe fits for them but not for us? Like for me, when we're talking about should parents have the right to control education, it's a parent conversation. So if you're not a parent, why does that not apply when we constantly get from the other side? If you're not part of the LGBTQ community, you shouldn't be speaking on LGBTQ rights.
Rules for thee and not for me, right? Come on.
Right. So here's where
I
it comes from
stated
with
when I
that,
came
right?
in that I am a part of the LGBT community, and I do not believe that it should be taught in anywhere close to grade school.
Okay, so here's where it comes
When you
from
become
with
a
that.
high school is when you learn your sexual identity, when you're out there experimenting with your friends at parties and gatherings and stuff like that. Both my transgender cousins that are both fully transitioned, both we knew they were going to be transgender
May I say
when they were
something?
younger, and then as they got older into high school, they got to experiment with their life in high school.
Okay, so here's why I say that, right? Like when you say like somebody else is doing wrong, and I don't agree with it when they say it, but because they say it, I can say it, even though I just identified that it's not okay when they say it. Like that's why I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it when somebody says like you're not trans, so you can't have a trans opinion. I don't agree with that either. So I don't agree when you say like if you can't be pregnant, then you don't have a say. Like I don't agree with that. I don't agree with if you're not a parent, then you don't have a say, right? Like you're valid in all of your opinions. And if you can't like take everyone's opinions and acknowledge and like have an open mind about it, you can't have an open dialogue, right? Like if you're just going to suppress and just like shut everyone down. And just because other people do that, I don't think, and this is just my personal opinion, this is how I handle it. Like you guys can do what you want. I'm not, it's fine. But I listen to everybody. That's just me. And it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not.
Can I say something real quickly? I feel like the word rights have such like a negative term now from like the last several years. I don't think parents want rights. I think parents want a say, an input of what they believe that child should be taught or should be introduced at an appropriate level.
Yeah.
Just because I hear the word rights
and acknowledged, like Curly's saying, we just want to be acknowledged. Like
exactly.
I get everything you're saying, Curly, but I'm not sure that you're aware that we're being told that we don't have the expertise in education, and therefore we should not be talking as parents about policies in education. So literally what we're having the conversation of is exactly what you're saying, and it's been toxic as for parents that are trying to communicate with these education boards and with teachers, and we're constantly getting the runaround like we shouldn't be talking about this. We're not the expertise in this. Leave it to the expertise. Well, who's the expertise? People in
I'm under the statement that me being a parent, I'm not allowed being a parent.
On education now.
I hear you and I agree with you. Like I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying, right? Like I agree with you. You have a say as a parent, right? Like, and I don't agree that people saying like you don't work in this field, so I know more than you do, and shutting your opinion down is right. I don't agree with that sentiment at all. But that being said, because I don't agree with that, I also don't use that sentiment. So, but I don't say because you're not a parent, I'm not going to listen to you. Because you don't work in the field that I work in, I'm not going to listen to you. So that's what I'm saying. I agree with you.
I agree with Curly. Just because you don't have kids doesn't mean you don't have a say. This affects our next generation, right? Everybody should have their opinion heard.
Exactly.
I agree too, and I would have even gone further to tell PSYOP that the reason why he's paying taxes, Bri, give me a second, and I would have told PSYOP the reason why you're paying taxes is because if you ever want to be a homeowner and live in your community or even a renter, it absolutely changes your living standards, okay? So when you got a hospital nearby, you got a school nearby, you got a library nearby, you got community services nearby, we all contribute and pay into that pot. But right now, as it stands, we're paying for, and we're not getting any representation. That's the concern.
Right, and I don't think like the appeal to authority anywhere, and this goes like across the board, right? Like when you have healthcare providers that are like, I work in healthcare, so I know more than you. Well, not necessarily. I'm a parent and I know more than you. Well, not necessarily. Right? Like, I don't think that appeal to authority gets anybody anywhere.
Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you're a good one.
But that's true. But I just don't understand it where people that aren't parents have more rights and say in what goes on than an actual parent. Because if I'm sitting there and I'm telling my kid that he's not allowed to do this and not allowed to do that, I become a bad parent. You know what I mean? But I'm telling my kids not to do the things for a reason, but yet I'm a bad parent, and if I go against the ideology of the schools nowadays, the schools can come after me and then facts can come and take my kids away. So you're saying I have no say as a parent?
That's not true in Canada. That's not true.
Not true in 100% it is. 100%
not true in
Canada.
I work. They can't take your kids away.
100%. Oh, yes, they can.
No, yeah, they can.
100% they can. Oh, 100% they can.
Away in Canada.
100% they can.
I work against the ministry to keep parents and their children together. So who's trying to say they don't take your children away in Canada? I am also an Indigenous woman who has had to deal with MCFD when I was 18 years old and get my children back for no fucking reason.
100%.
Don't come up in here and say Canada's all this sweet and innocent. No, the ministry was designed to take children away from parents.
Yeah.
Don't come up in here with those lies.
I am not
100%.
coming up here with lies. That's bullshit. You can't. The school cannot take away your children.
Are you kidding me?
They call facts and then they send facts out and facts comes and takes away your children. 100%.
All they have to do is call MCFD in Canada. Are you kidding me? That's all
Can
they
you
have
give me
to do.
one or three examples?
I'll give you one right now. Look at hold on. I'll give you one right now.
I'll finish my sentence.
I'll give you one right now.
Hold on a minute, Brian. Non-Indigenous included, because they're all fucking that shit I believe.
I'll give you one right now. What about that mom?
I did do something wrong. I was born Indigenous with a status card. That's what I did wrong. Because
you didn't do anything wrong, Red. Like it's so, we're not going to argue with each other. But
what about that mom? Here, I'm going to put one out there right here, right now. What about that mom? What about that mom in the Hamilton Hospital? Hamilton Hospital. What about that mom that didn't want to freaking go through all this shit with her kid? You know what I mean? Because
Vancouver, that was Willow.
It was it Vancouver? I heard it was Hamilton Hospital too. It happened at.
We're talking
and
about
the actual facts came in and removed the child from that mother.
We're talking about from the school.
All the school needs is a child who goes
to school. It's the same concept.
The only
same
thing
concept.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, so my cousin Dustin, who's transgender, went to school, and he was saying that his parents didn't want to go ahead with what his stuff were because those two family members weren't aligned with it, like my other two aunts and uncles who have the other child who's transgender. They got in trouble. They had their child taken away for 6 months, and they all had to do counseling.
Can I, ask the new panel, Anthony and Manuel, whatever your name is, what your stance is?
Well, can I ask Curly, what's your stance? Because I didn't get your stance first. Should parents have the right to control education?
Right. So I don't agree. Well, okay, so I agree with sex ed being taught. I don't agree with sexual orientation being taught, and I can explain that more if you want.
Sex ed should not
that's
be
enough
taught
for
in
me.
grade
Thank
school.
you, Curly, and I still love that I gave you balloons. Good. Carry on. Thank you.
Sex ed should not be taught between JK and grade 8.
What did you say, Vic?
Sex ed should not be taught in grade school, only in high school. Sexual
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily
sex orientation should not be taught in grade school neither.
So I wouldn't necessarily say grade school, but I'm not going to say high school either because sex ed encompasses your sexual health as a whole, right? Like, so that
What are you
teaches
talking
like
about?
young. Okay,
No
hold
kid
on.
should. Okay, between.
Okay,
How
hold
old
on.
are you in grade
Hold
eight?
on.
How old are you in
Let
grade
me
eight?
finish what I'm saying because you're getting
How
upset
old
before
are
I
you in
can
grade eight?
explain, and you're
Hold
trying
on.
to argue a point and you don't know what my point
Come
is.
on.
So let me
Better yet,
finish.
what is sex
Let me
education?
finish. Calm down.
The young mind is feeble, easy to
Thank you.
manipulate.
Thank you.
Sexual health. Sexual health is literally girls' menstrual cycles, their breast health. It does have something to do with STD transmission. Okay, Anthony, hold on. Because so this is. I'm going to tell you. I've literally just met you. I've literally just met you. So this is what I'm going to say, and I'm only going to say it once. I'm not going to like continue to repeat myself or try to talk over you. I will completely allow you to finish what you have to say. But if you're not going to let me finish what I have to say, I'm going to let the rest of the panel talk to you.
He's muted now. Carry on, Curly.
Yeah,
Carry on. It's okay. Derailment over. He's muted. Let's go.
Okay.
I love Nicole.
So, sexual health encompasses your menstrual cycle, which a lot of young girls are getting earlier and earlier. 8 to 10 years old. They your breast exams and all these things, and it encompasses your STD transmission and rates of transmission and how it's transmitted and things like that. It doesn't have anything to do with how you have sex. That's a social thing, right? Like nobody taught you how to suck a dick, and here you are going, right? Like that's a social thing that you
Schools are teaching that now.
No, that has something to do with sexual orientation, which I completely disagree with, right? Like that's where the difference between sexual health and sexual orientation is. So I agree with sexual health being taught in like a middle school age because I think it's appropriate for little girls to learn about their bodies. I think it's appropriate for little boys to learn about their bodies. I don't think it should be mandatory. It should be an opt-in program for the parents. But that should not include sexual orientation. And the reason that I say that specifically is because you cannot point to me in any avenue, I've yet to have it anyway, where there is an act or transmission method that doesn't apply to, or that only applies to one orientation, right? Like anal sex is anal sex, oral sex is oral sex, right? Like you don't have to say man and man or woman and man. You don't have to teach that. So like, that's what I'm saying when I say sexual health is okay to be taught, but not necessarily orientation. Like I disagree with orientation.
It seems like people are getting confused between the two.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely, and it's on purpose.
And it's different, and it's like they're twisting it. It's like parents are not saying we don't want them to learn sex ed. We do, because at a young age it starts developing. What parents are upset is the soji stuff. Like that stuff is too young to be pushed into little kids. Like maybe when they're preteen or teen, because it's better for them to know.
Even then, even at preteen, if we're thinking about it, even at preteen, and especially since the hormone changes in kids are happening so early now, and we have to add in the extra account of things of like parents who have their children on drugs that help them with their everyday lives and stuff that they don't understand what else is doing to their bodies and stuff. And these are the things that are making it difficult because like you have girls as young as 7, 8 getting their periods now.
True.
Their hormones
all in the food.
Now think about it. When we're on our periods and stuff like that, right? Like when we're on our periods and stuff like that, we're not fully there 100% thinking wise and stuff like that. Like when our hormones are going out of balance, that changes a lot, right? And that's something that people need to really take into an account, which is also why it is so important to have sex ed where it's about your human development and body and stuff like that in elementary school too, right? Because
when your brain is not manipulable.
I didn't think I had to have the talk with my daughter about her period until she was about 10. But it came.
Yeah, I was an early bloomer, so I kind of suspected that my daughter would be an early bloomer too, and she was. But I already had that conversation with her, and I have no problems with the anatomy and the health of our bodies being taught. What I have a problem with is heterosexuality, homosexuality, any kind of sexuality, and that's orientation, right? That's your preference that goes delves right into sex, and the blurred lines that keep being misconstrued, and all of a sudden we're being labeled as such. It mind boggles me that people don't understand that anatomy and sexual health is absolutely reinforcing what parents already teach their children at home. And if I left anything out, because for me, my daughter was 8, and I was like, honey, I was an early bloomer, early development. And I taught her what development is. I taught her what our hormones are, what to expect, not to be afraid, and prepare. So I sent an extra pair of clothes, the pads, you name it. I made sure that she was already aware and prepared. And then our education is supposed to reinforce what parents are already teaching. Just saying. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Hey, sorry, I just want to interrupt for 1 second. I did not catch the province, Red,
BC.
where the children were taken from the parents at school.
BC. It's very common. It's very common in court cases out here. It's normally from somebody from the school.
May I say something that's getting on my nerves? Okay, sorry. And you guys can totally, I'm going to try to say it the best as I can because it's going to come out completely wrong. I'm getting super annoyed when people are saying heterosexual in school. Girl, that's called biology. That is biology. Man and woman make babies. That is biology.
When do you take your first class of biology?
That got messed up,
What
but
age?
I don't need like the Kama Sutra stuff being taught in like the actual sex act being taught to my child.
Like my grade 2er doesn't need to know that a cock enters a woman's vagina and that is how they have a baby. Like my child doesn't need to know that in elementary school. Because they need to be able to keep play as play. When you start adding in these extra sexual stuff, when they're young, that's when they start playing doctor, and they try to, they start to explore more because they're given the idea to explore that area, and that's the issue.
So I'm assuming you guys agree. It's not called heterosexuality. It's literally biology. That is how babies are made.
Yeah,
right?
But there's
human biology.
There still has to be an age appropriateness. Like children need to be taught that, doctors and all these people, like who's safe to go to their private parts and, about things that could happen. They shouldn't be worried about a cock entering them.
Which is
true. Bellfire, what grade do you say biology is taught?
To be honest, I'm going to biology.
Grade 2.
What aspects? Because
biology is not taught in grade 2.
Okay, are you telling me that
in grade?
In grade 2, you were taught that a mom and a dad have a baby.
Yeah,
that the mom gets pregnant. My son had to draw a picture of a baby in a womb, and yes, of course, grade 2. That's just
like people don't understand. Like young children are already exposed to this, but it is in an innocent way. Like for example, children in daycare, they see pregnant mommies coming in, they see it. They see breastfeeding, like that is natural, and like they see it and they understand like that aspect in an innocent way. Like my daughter asked me where the babies come from, and jokingly, she thought it came from my butt because I said it was like pooping out a baby. So she thought that for a while. She was also only 4 or 5, and then I explained to her, and she's like,
"Okay, hold on, Belle. I feel like you're monologuing a little bit, and lots of people want to say something. So let's try to just keep it quick a little bit. Thank you."
Yeah, so sorry if my blurred lines happened again because I said heterosexual, but I meant like straight sex. You know what I mean? So let's just put it that way. Our kids don't need to know what preferences are. They don't need to know anything outside body health and anatomy, what their parts are, what their parts do. They don't actually need to see I didn't do that to my children, and I don't expect that to happen to other people's children. I try to keep my children innocent for as long as possible. I don't do acts like that in front of my children. I don't talk about that kind of stuff in front of my children, and I sure as heck don't want that kind of stuff outside of being around me happening. And if it is happening, I want to be told. So if this is actually going to happen in class, I want a letter of consent sent home so that I can keep my child away from it. If other people want their child to participate in a course that actually goes and demonstrates the sexual activity happening, I will opt out of that every day of the freaking week. Like, that's just me, and I should be allowed to decide that.
So I'm the opposite of you. Let me just say this. I teach my children everything because children are smart and they are social and they see things, and I'd rather them learn it from me if they have questions. And I just don't want it in my school. Let's focus on the curriculum. But I teach my kids every single thing that exists.
You do know how easy it is to manipulate a mind, right?
I think sexual health is really important to teach, but it should absolutely be.
I got 3 kids myself.
It should be an option.
The reason why,
and not once have I ever tried to indoctrinate my kids.
Is because
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I have a
Marco.
group question.
Sorry, Curly was saying something.
Anthony, your mic is super low, Anthony. Every time you try to talk, no one is hearing a word you say, and you wind up over talking a lot of people that are already talking. Just to let you know. Thank you.
I thought it was
it's
Marco.
let me take my headphones off. Hold on.
I have a group question, and I just want you guys to think about it for a second, okay?
Can you hear me now?
What would you guys consider the 3 more important topics or classes needed to be taught in school? Think about it for a second, and then I want everyone to say which ones and why. Say something after.
Life lessons.
You mean life skills?
Life skills, yeah. They should be taught way sooner than what they're actually taught. You know, they should be taught about taxes. They should be taught about freaking job searching. They should be taught about all this stuff. You know what I mean? The way to actually move forward in society. You know, with all the stuff that they're teaching now, they're just so confused. They don't even know which way work is. You know, a lot of people nowadays, we've made it so that people don't want to work. They want to sit at home. They don't want to work. They don't want to keep the economy going. That's what we created because they were manipulated at a young age to say it's okay not to work.
Hold on 1 second
100%.
here. What we're not going to do is derail my live with all these questions. People might not be comfortable answering that, first of all. That's why I don't want anybody to feel obligated. And people don't want to just sit at home. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home wife.
I love being a stay-at-home mom.
Hey,
it's the most
I'm a stay-at-home dad.
gift I've ever had, and I love it.
I am not a stay-at-home mom. I am an engineer of the households.
That's what I say too. I'm like, people ask me, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a social engineer raising awesome children. You're welcome.
I'm a domestic engineer.
I think that we all agree that just the actual normal curriculum is the focus, and they need to stop derailing from that to teach other things.
You know what I think is the most important thing?
Totally agree.
Problem-solving skills and critical thinking, because kids cannot think for their own.
Let's start with reading and writing. I don't know. How can you critically think if you can't even read a sentence?
Category. But that's what I mean. It falls in a category. So when you get a child to read a paragraph and explain back what that means, they can't do it anymore. They are now, I think we're at almost 6 years behind the level of where they're supposed to be reading.
Yep.
This is more important to me than anything. If you can't critically think about it, that is big.
They took
That's
the
a big,
parents out of
scary
the
fact.
household. They took the parents out of the household and they put their children's life and choices in other people's hands for majority of the time.
I would also like to stay on the fact that the reading and writing has gone down that far, and look to the boomers. Could we please get a stat on the boomers literacy level? Because I would really question how far we've gotten ourselves and why. Because I know firsthand, my dad can't read or write to save his life. He's mechanical genius and can take vehicles apart. So I'm not saying that makes you unintelligent, but as far as understanding politics, finances, he is literally crippled by it. Okay. And it has destroyed us as a country having that kind of issue. And that's why I speak so vocally on this. And I want every single child to have a comprehension level better than we have. Okay. As long as we're going ahead, that would be phenomenal for me, and I would just sit back and applaud the school board for trying to do that. But making this out to be such a core subject, I am absolutely fuming inside, because I don't see it as a core subject benefiting anybody other than the politicians who seek to divide us and keep us dumbed down so that they can constantly tell us we have no expertise and we shouldn't speak on any of this stuff.
Hi guys, I'm so sorry. Hold on, Brian.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry, guys. My oldest is just getting home from hockey here, so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to end. But I'm gonna come back later with a new background based on some of the shit that we talked about, mainly the Saskatchewan guy. So please follow and come back later on. And sorry to end it so quickly, but hockey
Love
comes
you
first.
Love you
Great
all.
Thank
live.
you so much. This was a great live. I really appreciate you giving us a place to